Hello and welcome to another session of AZMAT System tutorial. We'll continue with the asset swap model commands. Running this session in Excel 2010 under Windows XP operating system. Let's have a quick look. File, Options. Sorry, I should have done simply File Help, because in the Excel 2007, you have to go File Options and then other things. So in Excel 2010 is File Help, tells you Microsoft Excel 2010, version 14, and under Additional Version and Copyright Information, you'll see under System Info box. If you click that, gives you the operating system and other useful information about your system. It will come up in a message box. Take some time to gather the information from your PC. There. Under System Information here, operating system name, OS name is Microsoft Windows XP Professional. Close this now. So we're running Excel 2010, which is Excel version 14 under Windows XP. We go back here. Right, let's start the AZMAT. Open the AZMAT system file. Open my computer. I'm running this from drive G, which is USB drive. And this one I'm running Excel 2010. So Excel 2010 directory or folder. AZMAT folder or directory. That's where all the AZMAT system files are. You have about 100 files or so. Okay, that's the program file, AZMAT.xls. Open as read-only. Always open the main program file as read-only. Simple two-letter password, in this case, 2 character or letters, if you like, AZ. And then we get the AZMAT system password we have to enter. Tells the user what you're doing. Put it in the message box here, sorry, in the status bar. AZMAT system password. This you can change yourself on your own machine, whatever you want it to be. And you can change it as often as you like. Your 2-letter ID and 4-digit password, your own password. You may have noticed that it's gone full screen, fully maximized. We'll restore it later on. Let the user know what you're doing here. For example, message, useful messages, which file you're opening, what you're doing, so on. On faster machine, we're running on a fairly slow machine. This is Windows XP, remember, going back several years. So it's on a fairly slow machine. That's why it's taking longer than it would on the latest machines. And as this is Excel version 14 or Excel 2010, the old AZMAT menus or your own menus will be available from here, add-ins, and then you can access your menus. But in an older version of Excel, as you know, the menus could be added directly on here after the Excel menus, just before the help menu. So click add-in to see that after write most of this Excel command bar. So we'll go in there, add-ins. And there you have your AZMAT menus. just before actually we do anything, I'm just going to restore it to the size. And before we do any actual opening the AZMAT model, I'm going to save the AZMAT data file. So I'll have the data. So utility menu, save AZMAT data file. That's this file. So it's 1st of September 2017, 12:21 a.m. London time. So this just gives me an idea when I'm starting the webinar. So let's go and have a look at this. So from J menu, at this point in time, as you can see, before I get in, if I show you here, I only have the aa.xlsx, the AZMAT data file, open and visible. There are other files. If I say unhide window command, you can see there are other files as the system is opened, but they are not visible. They're hidden. I can unhide some of them, others you can't without the password. Right now, I just want to show you there are other files in the background. The main one is AZMAT program file, AZMAT.xls. Note that the older version extension .xls files, you can open them and save them if you like in the older versions, but you have to select which particular version of Excel you're saving the files into. The latest version one would be .xls, the current version. So if you don't specify, it'll save it in that version with the 4-letter extension. Right, first thing we need to do before we get into AZMAT model, I want to just update a couple of reference curves. So for example, ZRUSD.xls. We have been through that several times in different tutorials that you have to. I'm just going to update the just the curve file calc command, and you'll open that file and update it without actually making any changes. Always display if it's going to take longer than if you say more than 10-15 seconds or 20 seconds, display a message file. So this file I have got here, as you can see, ZZZ_034.xlsx, all the actual messages there. So rather than relying on a small message box, I display that file. So it's done, it's completed required calculations in that file, and the file has been saved. So I can now use the ZRUSD.xlsx in any evaluation commands. You have to do that each time, every day rather, you want to use any once, at least once every day. So you have to do the file has to be calculated. Reason is it calculates and prepares various backup calculation files ready, so that when I press Control V, for example, to calculate the valuation present value, it will do it literally in a second or less, even on the faster machines. So let's do the other one. So we may want to do perhaps may want to use the GBP as well. So I could just change these 3 characters, USD to GBP, or just enter GBP. Then AZMAT System will automatically attach ZR to the beginning and .xlsx, because this is Excel version 14, which is Excel 2010. Versions of Excel prior to Excel 2007, there will be only 3-character extension. So it says here, please wait until command is completed, message is displayed, or ready is displayed in the lower left corner of the screen. See, because it's an older machine, it takes longer, so now I've got ready there, so it's completed the command and saves the messages here. AZMAT System has completed required calculations and rates file that, and the file has been saved. So right now we can use either the ZRUSD.XLSX or ZRGBP, or both at the same time in any calculations. So I'm going to open the SSOP model, and for that all I have to do is go into the J menu, click SSOP model. So open the SSOP model. The file name is ZB AZMAT.XLSX. Note that the letter Z has a very special meaning in the AZMAT system, and you should try to avoid saving any of your files with letter Z, beginning with letter Z. You can choose any other letters, but not Z. The reason I've done is because there are various files just by the letter it begins with. I'm using some various, I'm assuming certain things about what type of file it is and so on. So please do not use any files, your own files, do not save them beginning with letter Z. Because here, for example, here, if you go into J menu, you have the SSOP model, B, G, bond calculation, floating error. So all these files, so the SSOP model, as you see in here, if I take it off, ZB, AZMAT.XLSX. So SSOP model is ZB, and so you have the bond calculation model here would be this letter G, floating rate notes FRNs, the ZF, and so on. But I'm using those particular letters specifically. So they are all files beginning with Z have a special meaning in SSOP, in AZMAT system. So it's not just that. You'll see that there are various other files also being used in the background. Okay, so we have opened the SSOP model. If at any time later, if this file was not the active in front, then you could actually, if you just click that, any of the SSOP model, for example, if it's not open, it will open it. And if it's already open, and it'll bring it to the front. So basically, you'll have access to it straight away. May notice here, maturity date must be greater than or equal to settlement date. Settlement date here is today, 1st September 2017. There you see transaction deal date or settlement date here and there. So this is, I have saved it here just to show you that if I change that now to, so let's say 23, yeah, 2023, it's 2017 now, say about 6 years, which is about right, roughly. Now it says input data has been changed. PV, this is the present value, yield and net PL results displayed may not be correct. So these results, which are here all in blue, remember all the items here, the data in yellow or green, these three cells have a very special meaning as well within the SSOP model. But anything, you can change anything where the cell color is yellow. Anything in blue, all this is descriptive part, but also results here, as you can see, these are actually some of these results are calculated as soon as you change any items here. Not just there, and scroll down, you'll see here as well, cash flows and so on. Then you have other items here. We will go into those later. And the cash flows, these are calculated instantly as soon as you change the data. For example, let's have a quick look at it. We'll go into later on these manual curve and live curve. Right, I go and I've just changed it. I've just put the maturity date 2023, Tuesday 29th August 23, 29th August 23. Let's change it to, so just we can see that if I change it to 21. Right. So it'll and this is annual coupon frequency. This is semi-annual. Semi-annual twice a year, so every 6 months. Annual once a year, as you can see. So if I press return now, watch what happens to the number of cash flows. Okay, this will go down here, and this will go down. Let's see. There. So basically now Sunday, 29 August 21. You chose the maturity date. Remember. Now we'll go into later on quite in detail later, but very briefly, I didn't know Sunday, 29th of August 2021 is a Sunday. But it is. AZMAT System knows that and knows that any maturity, whatever is there, will most likely be not carried out at a weekend. So change this to Monday, 30th August 21. If it's a working, as it's a working day. And it knows that Sunday is not. So it's automatically done that. But we'll go into detail. You will have full control whether or not to actually go forward, bring it back, and so on. It depends on what the parameters are. But for now, we'll leave it at that. So any item, if I change the frequencies as well, these would have to also change by, say, coupon frequency from annual to semi-annual and so on, very simple. And this displays a message that input data has been changed and all these results displayed may not be correct. See, so the keyword is may. It may be some items may be correct, but others may not. So it's actually letting you know that. So you're aware that some data has been changed and the calculations have not been carried out since then. Now, since I do know for a fact that this Sunday, it is a Sunday's turned out, I'm just going to change it to, let's change it to 31st. So it'll be Tuesday. And if I go and see that, as you can see, Tuesday, 31st of August, it doesn't need, AZMAT System doesn't need to go and check for whether it's Saturday, Sunday and change it. It's not going to take it there. So if you do know it's a maturity is falling on a holiday, don't use that because that will not be in real life. They will not have that particular holiday as such, because these bonds people decide, companies or governments, and they will not deliberately choose a bank holiday or a weekend, for example, as a maturity date. Right, let's now start with the actual AZMAT System commands as they for the SSWAP model. So the calculate bond market price, we'll just go through in detail what the actual various commands are. I'm just going to show you in add-ins. The Z menu is the one for SSWAP model. So all the commands here you see in the Z menu are specifically designed to be used with the SSWAP model, which, as we saw, was ZB AZMAT. Click there, ZB AZMAT.xlsx. Don't need to worry about what the file name is called. You just know if you ask it to open the SSWAP model, it will open it, and that is the SSWAP model. And that's the one you will be able to use all these, any of these. Some of these commands will take seconds, literally 1 or 2 seconds. Others, for example, preparing the reports, cash flow reports, credit charge reports, they may take slightly longer. And there are other commands, not in here particularly, but for example, in the not in SSWAP model, in the risk management, risk report. Simple, just 2 words, risk report. But some of these reports could take up to half an hour because it's carrying out on various calculations and an enormous amount of data to prepare a particular report. So, but in AZMAT System model, yeah, all these amounts for the right now, which we're dealing with, should literally take a few seconds, most of them. And depending on how fast your machine is, it could even be quicker than that. Not seconds, but even 1 second. As soon as you change something, the information is already calculated. So the first command I'm going to go through right now here, then we've gone in another tutorial, the actual each command very briefly. Now we're going to go into detail for what each, for example, calculate bond market price command does. Slightly in detail, more detail than the previous tutorial where I just went through very briefly. So here, we calculate bond market price. It calculates the net market price of bond. Calculates the net market price of bond, given swap margin, LIBOR swap margin, that's that, green, and required net PL. PL, profit or loss. So these two are fixed. For these two values, swap margin, there's 16 basis points, and the net profit or loss in US dollar, because the currency is US dollar. See that? US dollar right now. Using these two, calculate what this should be. That's what you are telling AZMAT System to do. Calculate bond market price. So this command is one of 2 very special commands. The other is calculate swap margin. So that one, which are available in the AZMAT System when AZMAT swap model is being used. Okay, calculate bond market price, calculate swap margin. Very special commands, these two. Interest rate swap. AZMAT System first calculates. So interest rate swap means basically same currency on the currency of the bond, US dollar, is the same as the currency of the swap. That's also US dollar. So when the two currencies are the same, it's called interest rate swap. Where the two currencies are different, for example, I have the currency of bond US dollar maybe, and the currency swap could be GBP, pound sterling, or the other way around. This could be GBP and that could be US dollar, or it could be US dollar, currency of bond, and currency swap could be JPY, Japanese yen. So, or this can be Japanese yen and this could be GBP, whatever. If the currencies are these two currencies are different, then it's called cross-currency swap, because you are swapping two different currencies. Yeah. When the currencies are the same, whatever, it's either US dollar, both of them, GBP, both of them, JPY, both of them, whatever, it's called interest rate swap. So for interest rate swap, as in this case, where I've got both currencies are the same, AZMAT System first calculates the present value of swap flows. So the present value of swap flows, we're talking about the cash flows. So if I come down here, in fact, what I'll do is I'm just going to keep it around there. Maybe not, maybe here perhaps. And bring the cash flows in the view as well. Now this subject may be completely new to you. So many of these topics, many of what I'm saying, some of these words may not mean much, but bear with me. As time goes by, as you keep using it every day, yourself on your own PC, and watch either the recorded webinars or attend live webinars, these items will become fairly familiar as they are to any bond trader or dealer who works in an investment bank or on their own. So, and you can read the AZMAT System help file. Just by reading itself, you'll become fairly familiar. So let's see. So what AZMAT System does first is calculates the present value of swap flows. So these are swap flows. So we're just saying flows means cash flows actually. So on this date, that particular amount you'll be paying out. It's negative. If it's positive, you're receiving. So we'll go into all that even more in detail later on. But right now, just think of that. Anything in positive, you are receiving, like here at the end of on the maturity date, because that's the date I've set, maturity date, Tuesday, 31st August 2021, you receive $999,182 to pay out $1 million, because that's what I have the currency, US dollar. So if the currency was GBP, it'll be pound sterling, whatever is here. And similarly here, bond cash flows, you're paying out, because it's negative, $139 US dollars. And on 31st of August 2018, because it's annual frequency, coupon frequency, coupon is called, if you like, interest. Coupon is called, for the bonds we use coupon. And you're receiving $50,000, and so on. And these are the amounts in dollars, US dollars, because that's the currency of the swap paying out. So these are cash flows. Swap cash flows on the left side, bond cash flows. So always on the left, bond cash flows here in AZMAT System. That's the way I've designed it. On the right, swap cash flows. So you're swapping this instrument with that, if you like. So AZMAT System first calculates the present value of swap flows, swap cash flows, calculates the present value using LIBOR margin. That's the LIBOR margin. LIBOR swap margin is saying. Using a LIBOR margin and other swap parameters. See, all these are the LIBOR basis, LIBOR frequency, and so on. All these items, maybe either all of them or the majority of them, if they're new to you, don't worry too much about it. But right now, just do, as I said before, do a lot of reading, AZMAT System help file, and attend as many live webinars as you can, or watch the pre-recorded free several webinars, and you can see which particular webinar to see by name of the webinar itself, by the actual which, for example, this particular SSO would be, because it's under the Z menu, SSO menu, because there is a limited amount of information I can put as in the title, so I'm using the Z. In this case, it will be Z menu, you'll see, or U menu, or M menu, or J menu, whatever, in there as the title of the webinar. So you can watch those particular webinars out of whatever numbers are currently available. So when it says in interest rate swap, it calculates the present value of swap flows using LIBOR margin and other swap parameters and the credit charge. credit margin, deposit margin, and so on. Using these, it also calculates the credit charge. Now, if I actually may have to, let's come down here and bring this full one, perhaps, up to that point. And we don't need these right now. Not that essential, so let's leave that. Not that, not that. Right. So we can see now bond cash flows, soft cash flows, and all the items we need to see for now. There are other values here. If I go here, you can see that, but we won't go into those. Those are not essential for now. Having done that, it then calculates a figure for the present value of bond flows. Using, once it's done, calculates the present value of swap flows, it calculates the present value of bond cash flows. Right. First, calculates the present value of swap cash flows using these parameters on the right-hand side of the screen. Then it calculates the present value of bond cash flows using the left-hand side parameters. Using coupon rate and other bond parameters, which gives the required net profit or loss using an iterative process. So we won't go into detail that right now, but that's what it's doing in the background. If you're not too familiar with the iterative process, you will become familiar as we go into actual. You will see the AZMAT system, the background, in the background, various spreadsheets it's using, how it actually arrives at that particular, the net profit and loss figure later on. Thus, the calculated net market price of bond, together with other bond and swap parameters as shown on the screen, will give the required net profit or loss. Cross-currency swap. AZMAT system for the cross-currency swap, I have two, these currencies are not the same. One of them will be different. So let's change this one, for example, to GBP. Remember here, this warning, input data has been changed, PV yield and net PN results may not be correct. So this time here, as you can see, this is in US dollar cash flows, the bond side is on the left, swap side is on the right. And the currency of swap is GBP, British pound sterling. That's why I have GBP cash flows in the heading. And I have US dollar cash flows in the heading here because this is US dollar currency of the bond. And you may also perhaps have noticed, may or may not have noticed, that here we have the amounts are completely different as well. So if actually, just to show you, so SSO model, two things. One thing is the sum of these items. So SSO model is partly AutoCAP, meaning only some results are displayed as soon as any data is changed, provided the calculation mode in Excel is set to be automatic. So in Excel, if you may remember, you could have the calculation mode to be automatic, manual, or so on, one other one. But in this particular case, if you have it automatic, then as soon as you change, like in this case, I've changed the currency, that's all I've done. And it's completely changed. You can see the cash flows of the GBP cash flows, very different. In the US dollar, when it had $1 million negative figure, here it's got this one minus one. So let me just change it back to what it was by simply using the undo command, right? That's all I've done. So it's saying undo typing GBP in row 4, column 9. So I have row 4, column 9. So if I simply use this command to undo. That means put it back whatever I had before in that particular cell. You will see these amounts, cash flows, are changed. Not just this side here, everywhere on the spreadsheet, wherever, whatever it affects to. Also, just for this one, it doesn't necessarily mean that these results are correct, because it says so here. Present value yield and net PL results displayed may not be correct, because as initially it was US dollar. I changed it to GBP. So some results are correct, others are not. And in order to get all of these correct, all you have to do is either use one of the calculate bond market price, swap margin, or this and that, any of these calculation commands, use it, and then at the end of that, it will display all the results displayed will be correct according to whatever current parameters are displayed. So if you ever see that message, warning message, anything is not correct, means you have not actually carried out the calculation. So don't just take that, oh yes, that's correct, that is the amount accrued in US dollar or whatever. Now, so let me just go back here. As I said, first thing I want to do is actually put this currency back to US dollars so you can see the cash flows. Keep an eye on this figure particularly there, the first one, and in here, the first one and the last one. And in here as well, first and the last. So I'll change the currency back to what it was, US dollar. I could type in USD, or I can just simply use the undo command. So I'll use the undo command, means put it back whatever it was before I enter GBP. So I'll click that, undo. As you can see now, the cash flows have completely changed. Minus 1 million here, and 999,182, and this is completely changing. So let's go back here. Since I want to talk about the cross currency, we will go and put it back here. I could do again, redo it. I think it might be redo type in GBP. So I could do that, or I could enter GBP or some other currency if I want to. But let's just put it back GBP and watch again, just cash flows. First and the last, particularly. First and the last, particularly, apart from any other thing. You may also see other items here. Some of these would be changed as well. But let's just redo that. And here we have. So because I want to talk briefly about the cross-currency swap, might as well actually have two different currencies. So now it's called cross-currency swap. Any calculations we carry out here. US dollar bond cash flows and the swap cash flows are in GBP in here because that's the currency. So for cross-currency swap, AZMAT system first calculates the present value of swap currency flows using LIBOR margin and other swap parameters. Using this margin, swap margin, and all these other parameters. Using these, first calculates the swap cash flows, the present value of that. So using these, and also the credit margins, the credit charge rather, in swap currency. So after calculating the present value of swap cash flows, using the LIBOR margin and other swap parameters and the credit charge in swap currency, it then calculates a figure for the present value of bond currency flows. So then calculates the present value of these cash flows, bond cash flows. So first calculates the present value of the swap cash flows using these parameters, all these parameters on this side, then calculates the present value of the bond currency, whatever that currency is, cash flows of that. Using coupon rate, and the coupon, remember, think of it as the interest, if you like. In the bonds, we use coupon. Interest, instead of saying interest rate, it's just called coupon. It's just the convention. So the coupon rate in this case is 5%. And per annum, because I have the coupon frequency, A, for annual. Okay, so it does that using these. Then calculates the present value of bond currency flows using coupon rate and other bond parameters, which gives the required net profit or loss in swap currency. See, calculate net profit loss in the swap currency, which is swap currency is on this side, bond, all the bond values on this side. So calculated net P&L. P&L is profit or loss in GBP, which is a swap currency. There it is, GBP, currency of swap. Using an iterative process, same as the other one. Thus, the calculated net market price of bond, together with other bond and swap parameters, as shown on the screen, will give the net profit or loss in swap currency. So let's just do it. Right? I'm just going to say for these two, you may also notice right now this field, or the value if you like here, transaction deal number is blank, because this is, when it opens, there is no particular, you're not actually given any bond number. AZMAT System will allocate a number to it. So let's just first, so we've changed the currency, for example, from US dollar GBP, I'll enter the maturity date. So I'm just quickly going to say so it is going to use the US dollar reference curve. Remember, we did it right at the beginning, we calculated it. We had to, before any reference curve can be used in AZMAT System, it has to be calculated. Various calculations need to be carried out before any reference curve can be used. Any rates file, if you like, curve, I'm calling curve because that's what, it's a yield curve. That's why it's called curve. So US dollar, I'm using in here. This side, I'm using swap, GBP. And that's why I had calculated both. If I see, actually, I don't have any other files other than these two. That's my AZMAT data file, and this is the asset swap model, ZPL. But I had, right at the beginning, calculated using the K menu, curve file calc. First, I had calculated for the ZR US dollar .xlsx. Then I did the calculations on curve file calc for the GBP, because those are the ones I wanted to use. So let's say in here, now we have done that. We have actually calculated those two curves for today, 1st of September. So we will, so if I come out of it here, you have the date here, 1st September. This is the actual transaction deal date. We'll be using all these bond parameters and the swap parameters this side. So I'll say, right, for now, instead of using any control keys, I'll just use the commands from here. I could just say calculate net profit loss, but also calculate net profit loss and 1 basis point move. We'll go into that later on, but basically, very simply, if it's changed by 1 basis point, also what the values would be, calculate and display here. That's what I'm saying here. So let's do that command. So calculate the net P&L, profit or loss, based on these bond parameters, based on these swap parameters, and the cash flows. These cash flows for bond cash flows, swap cash flows, all those, we use all these values to calculate net profit or loss and 1 basis point move. So if I click that, see what happens. Watch here, input data has been changed. What's this message? It should change back from after it's done that. There, calculating, showing what it's doing here. as well as here. Again, until you do not see a warning message, remember, and you'll see here in a minute, ready. So ready is there, note. And then here at this point, there's no warning message. It says, commands in Z menu have been specifically designed to work with this file. Z menu, this file, which is the SSWap menu. All these commands are designed specifically to work with this file, which is the SSWap model. SSWap model, this whole financial model is called SSWap model. Now I have entered, it's a basic, just simple basic information line here. The idea is not to show, rather than show a warning message and an error message. If you make some error, it will actually show as an error. And the other one, warning, was just to let you know that data has been just changed, so the results displayed may not be correct. Now it doesn't say that. There's no warning, there's no error. So just simple information message that note, commands in Z menu has been specifically designed to work with this file. So what it means is all the results displayed here, whatever you see, all those are correct, calculated and correct, because we've asked it to move even this part, 1 basis point move, market price. We will go into detail later on, just read what it is here right now. But accrued interest rate on bond, for example, what it is, accrued amount of accrued in US dollar, 139 US dollar. Very briefly, accrued means earned but not received. Right? Interest earned but not received. So it's if you like, is sitting calculating, you are earning that, but it's actually you have not received it. That's what accrued means. We won't actually go into details of all these, what they actually mean at this point in time. This one, I just want to go today in this particular tutorial, just very basic calculations to carry out. So now, still you can see that here, there's no transaction or deal number given here. If I now ask AZMAT System to save it, so I say, right, fine, good, it is. And basically here, if you've got here calculated net profit or loss in GBP, because that's the currency of swap I chose to give here, currency of swap, GBP, British pound sterling. And so if the calculated net profit or loss is minus 7,908 pounds sterling, because it's GBP. And whereas here, for example, amount of accrued in US dollar is 139 US dollar. So it's accrued amount, but you have not received it yet. That's what's accrued. And so that's why it's got here net P&L, profit or loss. So in this case, if you swap this particular bond with these values, with these parameters, with this particular currency swap in GBP, with these parameters, you'll end up with a loss, not a profit, loss of 7,908 pounds sterling. So you may not want to do it, obviously. That's the idea of this SSWap model. Quickly carries out calculation. These calculations, if done manually by hand, or even using calculator, or just a spreadsheet on its own, would take a very, very long time. It wouldn't just get it in one. So in this particular here, if you notice, while it was carrying on, because it's a slower machine, I'm using it because it's a Windows XP, one thing. So it is an older machine. That itself probably should tell you it's an older machine. So the machine is slower than the current latest machines, which would have done the same calculation in literally seconds. This has taken also seconds, but quite relatively longer period of time. And for that reason, you may have actually seen if the intermediate messages it was displaying here and here before we came to the final result. So, right, let's on a faster machine, it'll do this very, very quickly. But those calculations, intermediate calculations, we will go into detail. In fact, quite a few of these commands in later tutorials will go step mode. So it literally means one step at a time, all these calculations while it's doing. So then you'll perhaps begin to appreciate what sort of work is being carried out in the background. Think of it like you've gone to a restaurant and ordered a meal. And that may take, I don't know, depending on the restaurant and the service, may take probably, say, half an hour, or maybe even 1 hour, or may take only 10 minutes. But in the background, people are carrying out lots of work, preparing these dishes to your specification, whatever you've ordered. So think of it exactly like that. In the SSOP model, or in AZMAT system, when you say calculate present value, calculate the yield, or present value and yield, or whatever. Lots of calculations are being carried out in the background. And we will go through those later on in later tutorials, and possibly even in step mode. Then you perhaps will see what's going on in the background. But your results, if these were done manually, as I said before, in say using a calculator or even just a spreadsheet on its own, it would take quite some time, maybe even several hours. So here you see in several seconds what could take someone quite a long time to do the calculation. So they would go and say to the client, oh yes, if you did this, change that from there, that bond to this here, this is what happens. Or they might not even present to the client if it's actually making a loss. Why bother? Why do that? So they would then go around, okay, I'll change something like this point slightly, or change some of these, this one, and or here these for a different particular one, swap, and see what happens until you come up with a profit, for example. But in using SSOP model, it's done in seconds. And using the current machines, the latest machines, which are much, much faster, we will go and do these on later machines as well later on. But in this particular case, I'm using an older machine, which is slower, relatively slower than latest machines. So that's what we'll proceed with the actual, originally what I had planned to do. So calculate the bond market price, calculate the swap margin. That's what they do. Let's calculate the net profit loss, which we actually already did the command. Z menu, calculate net profit loss, and calculate net profit loss and 1 basis point move. I'm just going to explain a little bit in detail, which you've already done that, for example, in here. So to calculate net profit or loss, it calculates the net profit or loss given net market price of bond, net market price of bond. So that's why these are special. That's why they are in green. That particular cell, net market price of bond, LIBOR swap margin in basis points. So in 16 basis points. And this is required net profit or loss in the currency of swap, which is GBP. If you change that currency, this will change automatically. So in this case, I have here 0. Click here, 0. So using the net profit loss, it calculates the net profit loss given net market price of bond and swap margin. Calculates that. Effect of 1 basis point movement on price and margin. 1 basis point movement in market price and the 1 basis point margin. Remove that, what happens? So effect of the 1 basis point movement on price and margin. For you, if you're not a bond dealer or trader, they probably will mean not much. But they are extremely useful to bond trader or dealer, because they can very quickly see, right, okay, that's what I have got here, this whole information. But if there was a 1 basis point movement, what will happen there? How much it will change? Same here, 1 basis point movement in margin, what will happen? So instead of 16 basis point here, swap margin, if there was a 1 basis point, becomes either like 15 or 16, sorry, or 17. That's much it will change the market price. 3.65 basis point market price. If the margin was changed by 1 basis point. So very quickly in their brain, they can calculate, that's what it is, and then use that information. So it's extremely useful information. But for now, just observe and basically familiarize yourself if you have any intention of working in a bond with all these terminology, this terminology. Effect of 1 basis point movement on price and margin. So this version of command also calculates the following. So first, if you see, there is a command I have here, calculate net profit or loss. So it will calculate just that information here, not the basis point movement. But if I use this, calculate net profit loss and 1 basis point movement, and basis point move, it will calculate these as well. So this version of command also calculates the following. 1, expected. Remember, this is expected, it's not guaranteed. But this is expected change in LIBOR margin. That much it will change. So LIBOR margin is this, LIBOR swap margin. Remember, that's that. 16 basis point at present here, shown to up to 4 decimal places. And you have the net market price of bond here, 100, for example. So expected change in LIBOR margin for each basis point movement in market price. So if the market price of bond changes by 1 basis point, how much LIBOR margin, we don't really, it's LIBOR swap margin, but you just say LIBOR margin because you know it's swapped this side, that's 1. So how much the LIBOR margin is expected to change, not guaranteed, but expected to change basically. So expected change in LIBOR margin for each basis point movement in market price. And or the second bit is expected change in market price. Expected change in market price for each basis point movement in LIBOR margin. So if the LIBOR margin changes by 1 basis point, market price is expected to change by 3.65 basis point. If the market price of bond changes by 1 basis point, the margin is expected to change by 0.2742 basis point. Interest rate swap. So if these currencies were the same, it'll be called, as you know, interest rate swap. So for interest rate swap, AZMAT system first calculates the present value of bond flows, present value of bond cash flows, using the coupon rate and other bond parameters, all these parameters on this side. And the credit charge, right? Credit charge as well. Using the credit charge, all these bond parameters, calculates the present value of bond cash flows first. This is for the interest rate swap, remember. Interest rate swap means both currencies are the same. So calculates this side first, present value of bond flows. It then calculates the present value of swap cash flows. Then calculates present value of swap cash flows. Remember, both these currencies will be the same. Actually, I think I'll just change it. Then there is no question. So if I put the US dollar, then perhaps it'll make more sense to you. So again, here, as soon as change the currency, look, as you can see, input data has been changed. Present value yield and net P&L results displayed may not be correct. Okay, that's the AZMAT system message there. So don't rely on any results because you change some data, any data, input data, you change any item in yellow anywhere on this spreadsheet. There, or here, or here, or here. Any of these, wherever it's yellow, means you can enter data. This is my own convention I've designed that I've used. I'm using the color yellow wherever to indicate that that's where the user will enter data. I'm using the color blue here to indicate that's where AZMAT system will enter the result of the calculations as it carries out. So you are not, as the user, is not required or not meant to change any of these parameters here, and which is not in yellow. As you can see, this item is AC, very short I'm using for accrued, and so on. But don't worry about what it's called or whatever. But right now, just remember, in SSWAP model, and not just in SSWAP model, generally anywhere in AZMAT system, if it's in yellow, it means that's where you, the user, user can change the data that is in those particular areas. So here, as we'll go into later on, cash flow number, this, that, the adjustments where they can make, but we'll go into those in later. Here, you're not meant to. This is not in blue, and it's not in yellow either. It's all in just the basic spreadsheet color white as it had background. So this also AZMAT system calculates, but these are calculated automatically as soon as any item changed up in the parameters area by the user. So just suffice it to say that if you see anywhere color yellow, though, and some data, that's where you, the user, is meant to change the data. Anywhere, any other than yellow, if you say either blue or white here, the normal color in here, it's not designed for you to change any item here. So for example, here I've got 50,000 there. If I try to enter, as my system displays, cell or chart that you're trying to change is protected and therefore read-only. To modify protect cell chart, first remove protection using the unprotect sheet command, review tab, changes group, you may be prompted for a password. This is the message given by Excel, warning message. You can't change any data here because it's protected. Again, any of these items in the data as well, if I try to change, I'll get the same as you can't change because I've protected those cells. So you, as when you learn later on how to do all these things, how to design financial models where you don't want the user to change anything, you will protect it and keep it protected. Whereas here, I can change, for example, I can change instead of annual, I can change it to, for example, semi-annual, yes. Right, and quite happily take that, and as soon as I enter the press the return or enter key, not only it will change, but it will also change. You can see the cash flows the number of cash flows will change as well. So you have 3 to 5. 5, they were annual frequency. So now I should have 3 to 5 should come up to here. 10 rows of cash flows. 3, 6, 9. My apologies, 9, because they're depending on your maturity date. Right, semi-annual here every 6 months. The thing is that the reason it didn't go on to one more there is because the 31st of August happened to fall exactly there right now. If the maturity date was different, falling in September, or likely, then it may change here. Yeah, right. So it's all because it's the frequency every 6 months is going on from here, and happened to come down exactly on that March, August going on. So I'll change it back using this, undo typing back to the what it was. Okay, so for interest rate swap, first calculate, AZMAT System first calculates the present value of bond cash flows using the coupon rate, which is the interest rate if you like, and other bond parameters. Bond parameters all on the left, and the credit charge. It then calculates the present value of swap cash flows. Present value of swap cash flows using the LIBOR margin and other swap parameters. Sum of the present values for bond and swap flows. So the present value of bond cash flows and the present value of swap cash flows. Sum of those two, the present values of those cash flows minus the credit charge gives the net profit or loss. So the net profit or loss you have here is sum of the bond cash flows, the present value of the bond cash flows, and the present value of the swap cash flows. Sum of these two, the present values of these two, minus the credit charge, gives the net profit or loss. Don't worry about it. We will go into detail later on. But just best to know, I think if you just learn something slightly, one step at a time, slowly, then it'll become more and more familiar to you. And that's the way I think any completely new thing should be learned. You may or may not agree with this, but that's the way I'm going to do it. Bits and pieces. And then we will, as you get more and more confidence, for example, hopefully by now you already know very clearly where the bond cash flows on this side, swap cash flows on there. If the currencies are the same, it means interest rate swap. If the currencies are different, it means cross-currency swap. So thus the bond and swap parameters as shown on the screen will give the calculated net profit or loss as shown. For cross-currency swap, so if I change the currency here to GBP, cross-currency swap, now we have one currency, and here the other currency is different. So it's a cross-currency swap. For the cross-currency swap, AZMAT System first calculates the present value of bond currency cash flows using the coupon rate and other bond parameters, all these on this side, and credit charge in swap currency. Credit charge in swap currency, which in this case happens to be GBP. Using that, it then calculates the present value of swap currency cash flows, present value of these cash flows using LIBOR margin, and other swap parameters. All these items on the right. The present value of bond currency cash flows, is converted. Remember, this is different to the other one. This is different to interest rate swap. The present value of bond currency cash flows, the present value of that is converted into the swap currency, which in this case happens to be GBP. The present value of bond cash flows is converted into the swap currency, which is the present value of these US dollar cash flows is converted into GBP, because that is the currency of the swap, and added to the present value of swap currency flows. The credit charge in swap currency, which is GBP, is then taken off, subtracted, to give the net profit or loss in swap currency. There is no iterative process involved. Thus, the bond and swap parameters as shown on the screen will give the calculated net profit or loss in swap currency as shown. We will go through this later on even more slowly, if you like, until it becomes really even clearer. You can watch this tutorial again and again as often as you like. You have free and unlimited access to these recorded webinars. Okay, let's move to the next command. So the Z menu, we've gone through this calculate bond market price, calculate swap margin, calculate net profit loss, and the calculated net profit loss and 1 basis point move. The next one is drive market price database in bracket. You can see that. As in this, in these menus, drop-down menus, we have a limited amount of space. As you can see here, up to there, I have got quite wide itself, you might think, a limited amount of space. So I've just entered in bracket here, database. We'll explain here in more detail in the AZMAT System help file. You'll see, you can read at least half a page of information about most of these commands. Some of them go more than even 1 page. In the older versions of Excel, very early versions, for example, Excel version 7, Excel 95 or Windows 95, as you move around, as you will notice, I have got other tutorials in that. As you move about a command, you, the programmer, can actually display a message here, which would, I for example, would use that to explain a much longer description of the command as you move down using the mouse here. you could explain more. For example, here, load or create transaction or deal database. So in here, I don't have much space. I've used load stroke create, means load or create transaction or deal database. And then in here, deal database file. So in here, I could explain, I could give a much longer description of that command. Any of these commands could be in older versions of Excel. So if you have a look, if you want to see what it means, go particularly have a look, for example, the Excel 95 running under Windows 95. That particular version of Excel, the programmer could, or developer, could actually give the user a longer description in the status bar of Excel. But that functionality, I'm afraid, is not available in later versions of Excel, which, for example, here I'm using the current version, which is Excel 2010 or XL14. So we are here, derive market price database. So this particular command, what it does, so it calculates the market price given swap margin, calculates the market price. So derive market, derive market price database. So it calculates the market price calculates the market price upon given swap margin for all live and or what if records. So for this, we'll actually we'll look into the database file for access swap model. Then perhaps it'll make sense. Because that file we have not yet seen. So if I come out of this, I'm going to come out of this altogether, take this off, click somewhere. If I look at it here, right now, I have only two files open. I have the AA.xlsx, which is the AZMAT data file, and the ZB AZMAT.xlsx, which is this current file, which is the access swap model. If I click under the unhide window and have a look at it here, very briefly, if you look at it here, go down here more, you may notice I have Y ZRGBP.xls and Y ZRUSD.xls. These are the reference curve for GBP, pound sterling on US dollar, but not the version you saw, a different version of that, which AZMAT system uses in order to give you these cash flows, for example, and these other results data. It actually had created this at the point when you ask it to prepare to do the calculations. That's one of the files. It actually uses other financial models and uses them, but this is one of those particular financial model which is creates and actually keeps it in memory. Here opens and so it's available instantly. So it doesn't need to waste time, go and open the file and then do various calculations. They are there, it's ready. But there is no database for this file here. Just want to show you. I'm going to cancel this. I'm not going to unhide any files, and it's not here either. Okay, right. Let's say, having done this particular command, since that menu have been specifically designed to work with this file. So in this particular version, these calculations are correct as they were for US dollar and GBP. I had used this calculate net PNL and 1 basis point move command to do these calculations. So Now, what I'd like to do is I'd actually like to save it. This whole transaction or deal, and AZMAT system will give it a number and save it in a database. Then we'll see where we come to use these commands: derive, market files, database, and other. So I'm using the database file to carry out these calculations on that particular database file. All these three here, as you can see. That's why it's in brackets database. So in order to show you that, I have to open that. I could open it, actually just open it, but I could just actually save it. If I save this particular deal, it will open. Or the other command here is this one: load or create transaction deal database. So if this particular, as in your case, if you had created the very first time you start using AZMAT system, if there is no transaction deal database file open or created on your machine, on your PC, it will create it if it does not exist. If it exists, it will open it. It will load it in memory. And for this, I could use that just to do that. Then I could show you these commands. Or I could actually just simply say, right, save as new transaction deal, a particular one with model which you have opened it. And then you made some changes, and then you want to change it. So let's actually just do that one, for example, load or create. So I'm just going to click that and see. So right now, remember, in here, I've only got the SSOF model, this current file open, and the AZMAT data file. So I'll go into add-ins because I have to use in these from Excel 2007 onwards. To use any of the AZMAT system menus, I have to click on add-ins and then go to the appropriate menu. In older versions of Excel, as you'll notice, up to Excel 2003, AZMAT system menus or any of your own menus you create could be added on to the rightmost of the Excel command bar, but just to the left of the help menu. Help menu would be the last. So just to the left of help menu, you would have J, K, X, G, and all these here. But in later versions of Excel, Excel 2007 onwards, these your own menus can be accessed only from the add-ins and then your menu. So in here, I'm going to go use the Z menu and I'll say load or create the transaction deal database. Right. So here you'll notice the file. First, before I go there, here, have a look at this. I have AAB AZMAT.xlsx, and you got ZB AZMAT.xl. That's the SSOF model file, if you remember. So we have the B AZMAT, and the Z. So what it does is it's taken off the first character Z and replaced it with the two characters of the user ID, the current user, which in this case, I'm the current user. I'm using the two-letter IDs AA, so it puts AA, and then from here, the second character onwards of the particular financial models. So if I was using the, for example, FRN, floating rate note calculation model, that particular, the database file for that would be AA, and then F instead of B, that is FF AZMAT.xlx, and so on. But for now, that's what it is. So if the first two letters are your own ID, then B AZMAT is on the second onwards of the whatever financial model, AZMAT system calculation model I'm using, investment calculation model. I wouldn't worry too much about it. If it's not for this, you don't have to. I'm just explaining to you what it is. As long as as far as you're concerned, this is the asset swap database as it says so here. It's a bonds as swap. If it was the FRN floating rate notes, it would say FRNs and so on. Interest rate swap or cross-currency swap. So just come out of it. So this in here, it stores both, whether they are cross-currency, which is the currency of the bond, remember, is different to the currency of the swap. Interest rate swap, when both the bond and the swap currencies are the same. So all of those are stored in this particular database file. So I have all the way up to here. You may notice that it has got on 31st of August, I had done something, saved it, and it has that here. All the others are very old ones. And as you can see, currency of bond is there, US dollar. And if I move further, currency of swap, US dollar. All these are US dollar there and US dollar here, means they are cross-currency swaps. But they don't have to be. They could be they are interest rate swap because the currency of swap is the same as the currency of bond. So they are interest rate swap. Where the currency is different, it's cross-currency swap. And you may notice coupon basis, coupon frequency, present value method, all these here. If I go back to the asset swap model, show you that all these items you see here, they all are stored in your database file, one column for each item. So you have here, for example, I'm using the coupon frequency, coupon basis, LIBOR basis, LIBOR frequency. They're all, so we have the coupon frequency, coupon basis, and so on, all stored each column here. So we have here LIBOR frequency, LIBOR basis, and so on. Every single item you see there has got a column. So you can see it has come. You cannot actually read the column number there. But if I see here, last column I'm using here, all this going on here, but it's not actually, if I see here, this is my column 45. Although if I move it to the next column, you'll see it's blank. So is that, so is that. So it's actually, this is the last column, column 45. So in here, I've taken off the column numbers. So as far as you can, from here, although you see it all is spread over several columns up to here, column 52. So from there, 8 columns. So 52 minus 45, 7 plus 1. So it's 8 columns used. It's just displaying. I could actually make this column width much as long as this if I want to, and then it will all be displayed in one column. So you can see that what it does, a very summary of that particular deal. That in this case, for example, 5% 2022 in US dollar swapped into 6 months US dollar LIBOR plus 16 basis points. Summary of that particular transaction deal. May not mean much to you if you're not an bond dealer or trader, but it means a lot. And particularly an asset swap bond dealer or trader, it means a lot. Summarize the whole transactions in that particular, in these words means a lot. Just by looking at them, know exactly what it is. Right, so first thing what we'll do, we've just opened it. Remember, I just used the command in here, in the Z menu, load or create transaction deal database. Will not create it now because it has old data here, files, so it was already there, so simply opened it. If I go back to my AZSWAP model now, so this is the AZSWAP model database, AZSWAP database, this file. So I'll go back to the AZSWAP here, AZSWAP model. Or I could actually, instead of that, I could use from here, add-ins, Z menu, as you can see here, or the actual commands there, but I can actually use, I can just click on the AZSWAP model if I want to, instead of actually using that. And it should go back to the AZSWAP model, which I have here, currently open. So if it's already open, it'll simply activate it, make it come to the front, if you like. Right? So it's similar to if I simply use this Windows command here and clicked there to get to that. So it will not, if it's already open, by using the AZSWAP model, clicking there, it will not just close it and open it again. If that particular file is already open, it will simply activate it. If it's not open, it will open it from your hard disk or wherever else is saved. So this is, as you know, all these models, these files are saved in the AZMAT System program file area. The database, AZMAT System AZSWAP database for you, as you know, this is because it has the first two characters of the user ID AA. That is your own database file. And that is all your own files are stored in your own area, which in this particular case, because this, when I started this tutorial, if you remember, I had opened it from the G drive. So your area is G:\AZMAT. And that's where, so if I actually use this here, file, open, I'm here, G, drive and folder called AZMAT, subfolder of G drive. The AZMAT program area is not G:\AZMAT. This will be under G:, then, for example, in my case, I've used EXCEL 2010, and then the subfolder of that, that's where the program files are stored. So in here, in this G:\AZMAT is your, for example, here, AAB AZMAT.xlsx. Now, the reason he's got this funny character, if you like, odd character there and here, is basically Excel's way of indicating to you, the user, that this file, these are temporary files, if you like. It's because it's showing that. This file is basically, it means it's actually open. Currently, it's open in plain English. Just think of it like that. You have the file open, and AZMAT System has actually is showing you that by this odd character, if you like, funny one. Think of that. But this one here, you can see on your actual disk, it has got AAB AZMAT.xlsx. And the AA.xlsx is the one on the hard disk. These two, this one, you can see that it's slightly dimmed, the icon. Again, Excel's icon dim. This is the Excel's way of showing it's a temporary file it has in memory. But the one on your hard disk is there. and on hard disk is there. So all these other files, as you can see, we do not have those open. So there is no need for Excel to create any temporary files for all of those. So, but I wouldn't worry too much. I wouldn't worry at all, in fact, about these, why they are there. Just all I wanted to show you was your file, the database file, AAB-AZMAT.XLSX is actually stored in your area, which is G:, in this case, because that's where I opened the started this AZMAT, and that's where I've got the user file area. So G:\\AZMAT, that's where I have that. Okay, let's cancel that. So this is my SSOP model. What I'd like to do right now is to save this. I think, yeah, that's great. I'd like to save this in the database. So the best way is simply, all I have to do is, I don't have to actually go and copy all these things. I can just simply use the command from add-ins, Z menu, because the SSOP model command is specifically for that. And so I'll say save as new transaction deal. Because I'm saying, if you'll notice here, it's a new, so it should give it a number here, transaction deal number. And then we'll be able to go and look into the database. So today, remember, before I use this, I just have a briefly show it to you again. I'll go in here, transaction deal database. I have here, if I go back to the top, and if you look at it here, the maturity date is there shown. But if I look at this, for example, transaction deal or deal data date, right? 31st of August is the last one. It keeps on changing, and it puts it at the end, the bottom. Each new database. The last one I have is the yesterday, but today is 1st of September, so I did save something yesterday, so that's why it's got 31st August 2017. Right, so keep an eye on that. I have this 724502. That was the transaction deal number generated by AZMAT System and entered here. So now I'm going to simply change this to go back to the SSOP model and say in here, basically use this command from the Z menu to say save as new transaction deal. Means save all this information. So saving here, the deal has been saved as new transaction deal number 790454 in AAB-AZMAT.XLSX file. This file resides in G:\AZMAT directory. Think of directory as folder. You'll see quite often directory I'm using instead of folder. Folder is a new word, if you like. Originally, folder was called directory, not folder, but they mean the same thing. So just letting you know where it actually is storing this file. Okay, so 790454, 790454. This number is generated by AZMAT System to ensure that is not the same as any of your previous transaction or deal numbers. So click OK. So this file, now I can see that if I look at 790454, if I go back to the, if I go to the database file, (790,454). 1st of September, that's the date, today's date. And the maturity is 31st August 2021. Coupon is 5%, and so on. Let's have a quick look at that. So if I go back here to the SSOF model, you will see 31st August 2021 is the maturity date, 1st August September is the date, 1st August transaction deal date, 31st August 21 maturity date, 790454. All this information here, you see, whole lot, that plus whatever else here, all this lot would be saved to be loaded again in here if you wanted to from your database by using AZMAT System command. I could say load all transaction data database. So right now I have 790454, the current one. If I use the other one, we will get that. But let's just proceed with that a bit later. So I was doing first the derive microfile, derive. I wanted to show you why we started all that was to open the database, and this and that is to come back to this particular command. I wanted to show you. If I use the command derive, I want you to do it right now because that may take some time. Because this derive market price database command, I'm actually going to go back in here, make the database file active so I can see, I can explain better. If I have in here, so actually in here, if I keep open this menu here, I can see, so derive market price in bracket database, basically what it means, this file is meant or designed, if you like, to be used on the database file. Okay, this is the database file. I have it here, SSOF database. AA, your initials, the ID you are using, the current user ID, which in this case happens to be AA, and then B, AZMAT, which is the SSOF model, B AZMAT.XLSX. So B AZMAT.XLSX, and second character onwards, the two-letter ID of the current user makes up the database file name. So by that file name alone, I can tell that this particular database was created for two-character ID, that's the user ID AA, and it's an SSWAP model database because it's got B AZMAT. If it was, for example, let's go back here, database for bond calculation model, it would have G instead of B. Floating rate knows F instead of B, and so on. Not all of these do not have database, for example. These others are very simple calculations, it's just calculating there. So the ones which have database will have that. So not all of them. Some of these very simple calculations, no calculations are required by no program, if you like. It will be as soon as you change data, your calculation results are displayed on the screen. So, but in this case, in the SSOF model, some are, as I said before, if you remember, AutoCalc, partially AutoCalc. So as soon as I change some information, for example, cash flows are calculated and displayed immediately. Whereas to calculate the net P&L, I have to use the program, either from the I have to use either one of these commands from here, calculate swap margin, calculate the bond market price, or net P&L, or use the control commands. Okay. Right. So in here, let's just read a bit, go through in a slightly more detail of this command, derive market price or derived swap margin or derived price or margin database by going back to the database file, because those commands are specifically designed to be used on the database for whatever the current financial model, in this case, the asset swap model. So the derived market price database command calculates the market price given swap margin for all live and or what-if records. So instead of actually calculating one particular transaction deal, so if I go back, so instead of, say, for the current transaction or deal, opening one by one, opening that, doing the calculation, calculating net P&L or swap margin or whatever, net P&L, swap margin or the market price, but one at a time, manually, what you could do is just simply get AZMAT System to calculate, to basically derive market price given swap margin for all live and or what-if records. Now, to explain that, I have to go back to the database, and some of these are live, others are, if you look at this column here, if it's 1, it means live, 0 means what if. 0 equal what if, 1 equal to live, what type of deal it is. So if I have it 1, it is a live deal. If I have a 0 here, it means what if. So the dealer, the bond trader, might want to just see what happens if I change the coupon rate to, like, for example, here. All the other items might exactly be the same. So for example, in here, you have the coupon rate is 7%. Maturity date is 29th August 2011. Coupon rate is the same. Maturity date here is 29th August 2011. But one of these other items would be different. So in here, it's not the same, but somewhere along, I may have changed it. Either the coupon rate was the same. So if I keep going there, something, for example, in here, the required net PL is that, various other things here. Any of these other items, if you change slightly, what the actual, or the actual basis, many of these parameters could have been changed slightly. Adjusted cash flows, for example. One deal you didn't do it, the other one you would change it. So for example, in here, that is, if I move it along, same as there, it is the 6.5% 2012. If I can find another one, maybe not. I don't know, something I must have changed here in order to. So do what if you could change just one item. In all these you've got, so here, if I look at this is column 1. And if I go back here, up to here, you have here column 45. So you have 45 columns. Any one item, you could change it slightly. And actually, it's not, to be honest, it's not 45 column, all data which you use. This is simply displaying a summary of that. So it's not something I would have changed. So, but it has lots and lots of columns of data, which you can see in here. Go back here as swap any item in yellow. There. In here, I could add some extra cash flows For a particular cash flow, I can adjust the amount by entering the amount here. All these items, so all the other items could be exactly the same. And then I'm asking to calculate the net P&L. So calculate the swap margin, calculate the net market price. So that's what it means. And here, for example, at this point after 0, nothing, so it's a what if deal. That's what that is. So if I go back here, so it is that if it's a subject completely new to you, there is a lot to learn, I know, but it'll take time. But for now, we're just going to go one step at a time. So if I say here, derive the market price database, going back to this. So it means calculates, what it does is calculates the market price given the swap margin for all live and or what if records. So in your database, whatever number of records you have, live when it was 1, 0 when it's what if, calculates the market price, drives the market price. So it calculates the market price using the swap margin. Right? Whatever the swap margin is, that's the LIBOR margin, that's the swap margin. Using that, it calculates the market price of all the deals in your database, right? Not just one, all of them, live and what if, by using that command. And so, for example, the market, the bond dealer or trader, at the end of the day, or indeed at any time he or she wishes to, can simply click on this command and say, right, go and open the database on this one, on this particular, on my database, calculate all these, because they may have made changes, they may, because for whatever, if they want to do just by one command, it'll do all of those calculations for all the records in the database. So this command works on the asset swap database, but is only available when asset swap model is the active document. So in order to use that particular command, you have to go, and this is my active document. It's the current file. So the active document will be the current file. It'll be open. This will be the one visible to you. So when you can see that, that means that's the file active. So in order to use that, I have to you go to the asset swap model, and then say derive market price database. AZMAT System will open the database file if it's not open automatically, and go one by one. Every single row or line in that database is a record of the transaction or deal. For each one at a time, it will calculate the market price and using the swap margin for all the records. So this command works on the asset swap database, but is only available when asset swap model is the active document. This is a special command which is used to calculate the market price of all live deals, what if deals, or all deals in the database. So you can choose to calculate either command for all live deals. Remember, when this one is 1, when this is 1, it means it's a live deal. So you don't need to select this, oh, that's a live deal and go, and or that's a what if deal and do, and then another one may be live deal, maybe what if one. You can just instruct AZMAT System to do the calculations in the database for either all of the live and what if deals, or only all live deals, or only all what-if deals in that database. For each individual deal, it derives the market price, means it calculates the market price from the current value of the LIBOR swap margin. So in this case, I happen to have the LIBOR swap margin 16 basis points, but whatever in that particular transaction deal, so if I go and look at it, notice that if I look for the LIBOR margin, you have 16 basis points for that. This one has 71.744 LIBOR margin, the basis point is different, 55. So whatever the LIBOR margin is, using that, it calculates the net market price of bond and enters it here in this particular column in your database for all the records, either for all records, include both live and what-if, or only all live records, or only all what-if records. So depending on what you, how you would like to calculate, for which you can instruct AZMAT System to do that. So for each individual deal, means for each individual row, it derives, it calculates the market price from the current value of the swap margin, the LIBOR margin. Before using this command from the asset swap model, so before you use this command from the asset swap model, there, please update the LIBOR margin column and then place the cursor in the deal type column of the database file as follows. So before using this command, so for example here, I have the LIBOR margin there, this command, this LIBOR margin column. You could just change the LIBOR margin for each row, the ones you want to do. So if you could change it for all the, in this case, happen to have all of them what-if, but there could be a mixture of what-if and live. So the ones you want to do, if you're calculating for all of them, change for all of them if you want to, because that's what it's going to use. Whatever is the basis point in the LIBOR, and then you'll calculate the market price and place the results in that column. So before using this command from the asset swap model, please update the LIBOR margin column and then place the cursor in the deal type column of the database file as follows. So the deal type is this. Put it here if you like. If you want it in that column. So in this case, I happen to have, these are two live deals, the first two. These are all what-if deals. So if for whatever, it doesn't matter what it is, you go and change the LIBOR margin if that's what you wanted to calculate it. And be careful, obviously, if you are an asset swap dealer or bond trader, you would not be changing the live deals just for fun or just so casually, because it is a live deal. Means it actually, that particular deal is active, is being used by your client or by your bank or by yourself. So only the what if is the one where you've just calculated and it stores here, saved it here to see what happens for this particular margin, for this price. All the live deals are, as it says, one means live deal. Change it only if that's what you really want to change it. So whatever you want that particular, basically AZMAT System, use this column, the margin values, when the command is derived market price database. When the command is derived swap margin, it calculates the swap margin using the market price. So, okay, let's have a quick look at it again. So before using this command from the SSO model, please update the LIBOR margin column, and then place cursor in the deal type column. This deal type column is this, of the database file as follows. Place cursor on any live deal. Right? So if I put the cursor, so let's assume we don't actually want to change anything here, the market price or the amount. If I place the cursor on any, say for example on here, on this particular live deal, this is basically to give you flexibility. You decide whether, remember this command here calculates calculates the market price of the database of either all live deals, all live deals, in this case happen to be these two, only one, all what if deals, in this case happen to be all of these, or all records, both live and what if deals in your database. So in order to give it more flexibility, this command, so before using this command, first thing is update the LIBOR margin. If you want to do the derived market price, update the LIBOR margin. Then place the cursor on any live deal to calculate market price of all live deals in the database. So if you want AZMAT system to derive the market price of all live deals, place the cursor on any live deal. Doesn't have to be the second one, could be the first one, or in this case, let's just do the live deal. So if we want to calculate only all live deals, place the cursor on any live deal. In this case happens to be these two, one of these, one, any of them. Or place the cursor on any what if deal. So what if deal is 0. So I don't necessarily need to put it here. I could put it here, I could put it there, on any what if deal. What if deal is when this value is 0. So if I place the cursor on any what if deal which is 0, it will calculate all what if deals in the database. This is really to speed up this command. This command. So rather than having so instead of if it, for example, says derive the market price database, derive swap margin, whatever, instead of saying then if in order to only live deals or only what if deals, instead of actually then having a message box and asking you to say which one you want, I've designed it like this, so that just by placing the cursor in the database on either the what if deal or the live deal, I'm taking that as the instruction from the user what to do. Whether, so if the user places on any live deal, it means calculate for all live deals in the database. If the user places a cursor on any what if deal, which is 0, that means anywhere, it means calculate all what if deals in the database. If place the cursor selecting 2 worksheet cells on both live and what if deals. So if the user calculates like that, so it's a live deal and a what if deal. Remember, it could have been the other way around, doesn't have to be that way. If this was 1 here and this was 0, I could select like that if this was 1 indeed. So by selecting 2 deals, and one happens to be the live, one happens to be the what if. It means calculate market price of all live and what if deals in the database. So if the database is correctly sorted, these two cells will be at the point where the live and what if deals meet. So if you sort the database, it will have the, because these two will be at the point where, like here, this all what if deals are together and all what if deals are here together, because this database has been correctly sorted. So they will be, so this point will basically be at the point where the live and the what if deals meet. If calculations cannot be carried out on a particular deal due to any error, AZMAT System enters minus 991 for a live deal and minus 990 for a what if deal in the deal type column of the database file, and terminates the command at that point, since similar errors could also affect calculations on other deals. So if there is an error in any of these records, it will enter AZMAT System. If this was, for example, this is the live deal, it will enter minus. So normally this deal type, remember, it can only be one thing, either 1 or 0. 1 to indicate it's alive, 0 to indicate it's what if. So if I find some error, if AZMAT System finds an error in this particular row, in this particular transaction, remember this transaction is going all the way back, all the way up to, so this is 5th row, 2, 4, 5. So if it's up to here, so 1 row by 45 column. Anywhere in here, if it's an error in that row, if AZMAT System comes across an error which prevents it to do the calculation, so if calculations cannot be carried out on a particular deal due to any error, AZMAT System enters minus 991 for a live deal and minus 990 for a what if deal in the deal type column. So minus 990, because this was the 0 what if deal, there and there. It'll enter that and terminate that command. Not just for that particular record, but a whole command will be finished at that point. I'm going to put it back to what it was, undo, back to 0. If it had come across, for example, in this a live deal, then it will enter minus 991 there. So that means it was a live deal. So the user would know it's a live deal, and basically minus 99, just chosen arbitrarily. You can use the programmer, you can choose anything else if you like, in your own program when you develop, if that's what you want. So I'm going to, so I will enter minus 991 because it was a live deal if there's an error, and the command will be terminated. If it's a, so in here, I'm going to undo that, put it back, 1 there, plus 1, remember, there, 1. So if it's 0, it'll enter minus 990. If it's a 1 live deal, it'll enter minus 991. If it encounters any error in a particular deal, and it will terminate that command to arrive market price. Same applies to the others. If, in case of errors, error or errors, a message is displayed showing the number of deals above currently selected deal on which calculations were successful. So if you have got, for example, I've got minus 990 there, minus 990. Oh, sorry, I'm on the actual in here. So escape to come out of it. Because it's highlighted, I could enter it. So I'm going to click, come out of that. So if the deal type, for example, in this particular deal, it encounters an error. So it will enter minus 990 there. So what it means is, in case of error or errors, a message is displayed showing the number of deals above currently selected deals. So the deal currently selected will be this one, whole one there. So if you say, so in this case, I have 2, 4, 6, 7. So 7 deals on which calculations were successful. So it will show the number of deals. Message display showing the number of deals will be these 7 deals above the currently selected deal on which calculations were successful. To see errors in any deal, first make a note of the transaction deal number. Right, make a note of the transaction deal number, which is there, that column, transaction deal number. For example, in this case, it will be 6124618. Make a note of that. First, make a note of that. And then change this minus 990, change it to 0. If it was minus 991, as it will be in this case, because it was the deal type is 1, minus 991, change it to 1. So before you do anything else, do 2 things. First thing is to make a note of the transaction or deal number, which is currently selected. You'll only have one row, so on. Currently selected. Make a note of that deal number, and then change it. In this case, change it back to 0, because it will be 0, the last digit, remember? Because, it will not necessarily be 0. If it is 0, if it's minus 990, change it to 0. If it was minus 991, as it will be in this case, because the deal type is live, it's 1, it'll be minus 991. So the last digit, if it's 0, change it to 0, because that's what it would have been. If it was 1, in this case, if it was minus 991, then change it to 1. Okay, so the AZMAT system, if there was an error there, that will be minus 991. If you come across that deal, will be selected, and make a note of the transaction deal number. And then, because it's minus 991, I know that this deal type would have been 1. That's why AZMAT system used 991 minus. So, if in case of error or errors, a message is displayed showing the number of deals above currently selected deal on which calculations were successful. To see errors in any deal, error or errors could be more than one error. AZMAT system will simply stop at the first error it encounters. To see the error in any deal, first make a note of the transaction deal number and then change the -991 to 1 or -990 to 0 in the deal type column of the database file, as we did here. And then use the following command from the Z menu. Load old transaction deal. Loads an old transaction deal from database file for current model. So after making note of the transaction deal number and changing this column back to whether if it was this -990 to 0 or -991, it could be this, could be that, to 1. Then you use the command load old transaction deal for the current model. So if this is SSOP model command, I'd have, for example, I'll be in the SSOP model there, and I can say, right, in this case, I use the command here, load old transaction deal, transaction or deal, and either point to that particular transaction deal or enter in the box, if you like, that particular deal number, whatever that deal number was. And then in here, in this file here, AZMAT System you will see what the error is to display that first thing. Or if you like, even once they try to do any calculation, you'll see it will display what the error is. So that was the derive market price database command. Similarly, you will have the derive swap margin or derive pricing margin database commands. So we'll have first we'll have a very quick look at the derive swap margin command database, because it'll be very, very similar to the other one, to the derive market price command. Because the only difference here will be, in this case, for example, will be the calculate the swap margin given the market price for all live and all what if records. So this command works on the SSOP database, but is only available when the SSOP model is the active document. Right? You have to have the SSOP model we have here in this one, then it'll work on that. Because these commands are only active Z menu commands, remember, only available for SSOP model. Very similar to the other command, derive swap margin, very, very similar to derive market price command. It basically calculates this special command, which is used to calculate the swap margin of all live deals, what if deals, or all deals, both live and what if deals in the database file. So very similar to the other one. If I go back here, exactly the same thing applies. Whether if I put the cursor in 0, it will calculate all what if deals. Put the cursor on any live deal, it will calculate only live deals. Or if I use two cells where I've got live and what if, then it will calculate, the same command will calculate for all live, one for live, or for all live and what if deals. So the command here, derive swap margin or market price, like the last command was, exactly the same thing applies here. Derive swap margin, simply calculate the swap margin using the net market price, as in that column. So before using this command from the SSWAP model, please update the market price column. So update the market price column here, as I'm now calculating the swap margin using this column. So before using this command, update that. Again, be careful if it's a live deal. Be very careful. If it's what if deals, fine, no problem, because you just want to know if the market price was this, what will be the swap margin. Right? To calculate the swap margin, update the market price column. So for each individual deal, it derives the swap margin from the current value of the market price. So whatever the current value of market price you enter, it'll calculate the swap margin and enter it here in that column. Before using this command from the SSWAP model, the same thing applies as we did for the derived market price database, derived swap margin database, exactly the same. Put the cursor on any what if deal if you want only all what if deals calculated. Put the cursor on any live deal if you want only all live deals calculated. Put the cursor between calculating two cells, so you have got both live and what if deals selected together, in which case it will carry out the calculations for both live and what if deals. All of them, all live and what if deals in the database. If the database is correctly sorted, these two cells will be at the point where the live and what if deals meet. If calculations cannot be carried out on a particular deal due to any error, AZMAT System enters -991 for live deal, -990 for what if deal in the deal type column of the database file and terminates the command at that point. Since similar errors could also affect calculations on other deals, so exactly the same as for the derived market price command. So all these two commands almost exactly the same. The only difference is you're using in the derived market price, you're using the swap margin to calculate the market price, and in the derived swap margin column, you're using the net, using the market price to calculate the swap margin. So in case of error, it's the same. We did that. So I won't go into that again. We've done it several times now. So that's what the derived market price database or derived swap margin database commands are concerned. Next one is derived price or margin database. So it calculates market price or swap margin for specified live and what if records. Right? So it calculates either the market price or the swap margin for specified live and what if records. This command works on the SSWAP database, but is only available when SSWAP model is the active document. So you have to have the SSWAP model and it must be the active document. The reason that one is shown here, I'm showing it here, is basically in the older versions of Excel, the Z menu is not available unless the SSWAP model is the active document. In later versions of Excel, as we have it now, 2010, this one, Excel version 14, which is Excel 2010 or Microsoft Office 2010, the Excel in that. The SSOP model or any command, the Z menu here would be available whether or not the SSOP model is the active file. It's a special command. Derive price or margin. Derive price or margin database command is a special command. And is used to calculate market price or swap margin for selected deals in the database. Right? So this command you would not use to calculate for all deals in the database, whether they are live or what if all deals, or only all what if deals, or only all live deals. But this would be for specific deals, whether they are live or what if, doesn't matter. I could select, for example, that deal, that deal, that deal, like that. Different deals, specified deals. So, and for this, it'll calculate either calculate, or calculate, if you like, it's called price or margin in the database. So the selected deals, like here shown, they could be either, the selected deals can be a mixture of live and what if deals. For each selected deal, the user can choose to calculate either market price or swap margin. So for each deal, I can choose to calculate, for example, on this deal, I can choose to calculate the live margin, or this deal, I can calculate the market price. Depending on whatever you want, basically, you decide. So the selected deals can be a mixture of live and what if deals. For each selected deal, the user can choose to calculate either market price or swap margin. If the market price is required, it is derived from the current value of the live swap margin. So if this market price is required, it will be calculated from the swap margin, given swap margin. In this case, happened to be 20 basis points. If the swap margin is required to be calculated, for example, the 12.5, as right now, swap margin is required to be calculated, it will use the current market price given here as 101.1817. So if the market price is required, it's derived from the current value of the liable swap margin, using that one. If the swap margin is required, it will use the current value of the market price. This command is designed to work on up to 50 selected deals at a time. If more than 50 deals are selected by the user, calculation is carried out on the first 50 deals only. So, for example, in a typical SSWAP dealer or traders SSWAP database, they could have hundreds of deals in the file. Not just here, I have something like 31 from 11, 21 deals shown here. But have hundreds of deals. So it will select up to 50 at a time. So you can only, if you select more than 50 transaction deals, then it will calculate only on the first 50 deals only. Before using this command from the SSOP model, for each selected live deal, enter the market price and 11 in the deal type column to calculate LIBOR swap margin. So enter, so the first one is we are saying derive market price or margin. So before you use this command, from the SSO model for each selected live deal. So if I select deal there, there, and I can go back up, for example, there. So I've selected 3 deals, for example. For each selected live deal, enter market price, enter the market price, and 11, enter 11. So enter the market price first, and 11 in the deal type column. So in the deal type column, if you've got a live deal, so instead of you have 1, enter 11. To calculate LIBOR swap margin. So if I want to calculate the LIBOR swap margin of a live deal, so live deal is indicated by 1. So for example here, I should enter 11. So if I enter 11 there, reason remember I've entered 11 here is because it's a live deal. So enter 11 here if you want to calculate the LIBOR swap margin. So I want to calculate the LIBOR margin, swap margin, using the market price of bond. So if I want to calculate the margin, enter 11 here. Or enter LIBOR swap margin, or enter the LIBOR swap margin if I want to calculate the market price of bond. So in that case, enter 101, not 11, but 101. So first I'm going to undo it, put back my original one, so for example. So if I want to calculate the swap margin, should enter first the market price for what you wanted to calculate for. So enter the market price first, and then my apologies. If you are calculating if you want it to calculate swap margin, enter the market price and enter 11. Enter 11. So first enter the market price, enter 11. Then it will calculate the margin. I'm going to redo this. If you wanted to calculate the price, enter the margin, enter the swap margin, and then enter here 101. Remember, it's 101 because it's live deal. And in this case, it will calculate the market price. Just to give you an idea why I'm using this 101 and 11. So market price in here, as you can see, it's 100 or so. Market price, 100. So maybe that might be easier to remember. So if it's 100, near 100, so it's 101. That means calculate the market price. So by entering the swap margin and entering 101, 101, market price is about 100. So that means I'm really asking you to calculate the market price. Swap margin, for example, is here, basis point 16. So it's more near 11. The reason I'm using 11 is because 1 is for live deal. So if I wanted to calculate the margin, then I'll put here 11, because it's nearer the margin, if you like. And to calculate the margin, so I should enter the bond market price and enter 11 here. It means it will calculate the margin for this in this transaction, for this deal, it will calculate the LIBOR margin using the market price. If you enter 101, it will use the swap margin. So it will enter the swap margin. You enter the swap margin. If you wanted to calculate the bond market price, enter 101. 101. You enter the swap margin and it will calculate the market price. Think of it as 101 is nearer the market price, what you wanted to calculate. Whereas 11 is nearer swap margin, think of it that. So if you want to calculate the margin, 11 there. And you will enter the other one first. So to calculate the margin, enter the bond market price. First, enter 11 here. To calculate the swap margin, enter the market price and enter 101 here. Then AZMAT System will know that's right. This is in this particular column, because the user has entered 101, user wants AZMAT System to calculate the market price using the swap margin for that particular transaction deal. So I'll put back the one I had original there. In this particular deal, say again for 0, if it is very similar, so if you wanted to calculate the for the what if deal, in this case 0, for this particular deal, same thing applies, except that if I wanted to calculate the swap margin, enter the bond market price and enter here 10. 10 is nearer the margin, if you like, 16 or 20. Whereas here I have 100 is market price. So if I enter 100, that will mean calculate the market price. If I enter 10 means calculate the swap margin. So if I wanted to calculate swap margin, first thing I should do is enter the bond market price for which I wanted to calculate the swap margin for, and then enter 10 here. So if I enter 100 here, I wanted to calculate the market price using this swap margin. If I have 10 here, it means I wanted to calculate the margin using the price. And the reason by the fact that the last digit here is 100, 0, 10, 0, it means it's a what if deal, which has 0 there. So to put the original value back, I'll have 0 here, 0 there. It will soon become familiar as you start using it. Practice a few times on your own database file. Create lots of these what if or live deals. Call it whatever you like. 1 for live deal, 0 for what if deal, and build up some database of your own, or just use this provided one and practice this command. It'll all become very familiar as you start using it. So 100 or 101 if you want to calculate the bond market price. 101 then it will be a live deal. 100 if it's a what if deal to calculate the bond market price. To calculate the margin, it will be either 10 or 11 in here. And there to do so, enter the bond market price column, update it, and then enter 10 or 1. 10 for what if deals, 11 for live deals. Simple. It makes sense. If you if you, as you start using this command, practice a few times, it'll become very, very familiar. Having done that, all that, enter these at that, then select deals in the deal type column of the database file as follows. Place cursor on the first worksheet cell which contains 11, 101, 10, or 100. Okay, so let me just make a, let's say I'll do here 11, for example, and I'll do here 100, and I'll do, say, 10 there. Remember, I'm putting 10 or 100 because the original was 0. I put 11 here because the original was 1 live. And so having done, so let's say just these 3 I wanted. It could have been 300, but no, not quite, because you're limited up to the, there is a limit, but we won't go into that right now. But for now, remember, for the other, calculate the derive swap margin and derive the bond market price, it will do the calculation for the first 50 deals rather than the entire one, or the first 50 if you selected more than 50. So let's, on this particular one, so having done that, enter the 10 or 100 or 11. It doesn't need to be just one, it could be many. Could be, and there again another, or they could be consecutive even. So I could have 100 there. All these, because there was 0, I'm entering 100 there, 10, this is 1, that's 1, so I've entered here 11, for example. And I could actually even put it here, the first one, 101. So having done that, I've selected those, I've got the 2, 4, 5, 6 of these there. Having done that, then select deals in the deal type column. So this is the deal type column. Select the deals, and at the same time, remember, so this 101 means I wanted to calculate 100 is 101 is near 100, so that means the market price. I want to calculate the market price, so update the swap margin. 11 is nearer the margin, if you like, so I wanted to calculate the margin. So enter the bond market price for which it should calculate the margin, and so on. These two are 100 means calculate the market price. This is 10, this is 10 means the margin for these two calculate. And because 10 and 100, because these are what if deals. 100 are 1 or 11 because they are live deals. Okay, having done that, now select the deals in the deal type column. This is the deal type column. Select the deals in the deal type column of the database file as follows. Place the cursor on the first worksheet cell which contains 11, 101, 110, or 100. So in my case, actually, I've got it from there, so I'll leave it there. The first one. So AZMAT System will start working from the one you have entered, either 10, 100, 11, or 101. So enter on the first one. Then press and hold down the Control key and click on the second and subsequent worksheet cells which contain 11, 101, 100, or 10. So I've done that. Now I'm holding down the Control key and click there. Control key, I'm holding it down, click that, there, there. So I've got 2, 4, 6. 6 deals selected. Happen to be the first one. It doesn't have to be. Remember, I just happen to be, I've selected that as well. or there could have been more of them. I could have started from the second, third, or wherever. Or indeed, I didn't even have to do the live deals. So basically, so enter the cursor first on the first one, which is 10, 100, 11, or 101, and then enter the place cursor on the subsequent ones while holding down the control key. When all the required deals are selected, then use Excel window command to select the asset swap model and start this command from Z menu. Remember, right at the beginning, I said this command works on the asset swap database, but is only available when asset swap model is the active document. It's a special command which is used to calculate market price or swap margin for selected deals in the database file. So having done that, so first thing, remember to, before we use this command, if I wanted to calculate the, for example, the first one is because nearer 100, that means market price. Nearer 10, sorry, in this case, swap margin is like 16, which is much lower than 100, if I. So 11, if it means I want to calculate the margin. 100 means I want to calculate the bond market price. 100, I want to calculate the price. 10, I want to calculate the margin. 10, calculate the margin. 11, because it's an active deal, calculate the margin. At 101, calculate the bond market price. So whichever you want to calculate, that one obviously you would not enter. It's the other one. You'll enter the, if you want to update, you should update. In this case, for example, the first one, because it's 101, I'm calculating the market price. I should update the margin for which I wanted to calculate the market price. Second one is 11. So it means I wanted to calculate the margin, in which case I should update the market price column for that deal. And here, both of these are 100. That means I wanted to calculate the market price. So I should update the swap margin if I wanted to do so. If I don't need to update, don't want to update, don't do so. It will simply calculate whatever you have, the current value. And subsequent so on. So these two are both 10. So it means I want to calculate the swap margin. So I should update the bond market price if that's what I want to. Ensure that you have done that. Once you have done that, enter these like these you have got here, and then use the Excel Windows command to go to the asset swap model before using this command. Right, so having done all that, when all the required deals are selected, as I have in this case, I've got that, then use Excel window command to select the asset swap model. So go, so in here, window, switch windows, command in here, go to the asset swap model, which is this, ZB. You may have, remember, other financial investment banking calculation models open, for example, the bond one, which is ZG AZMAT, or FRN, which is ZF, F for Freddy, or FRN. So if you may have other financial models open, doesn't matter. If you want to use this for the asset swap database, you go to the asset swap model file, make that file active there. Having done that, now use the add-in Z menu, and then I'm saying use the derive price or margin database command. So in this case, remember this one is selected deals. Those two, the first two were derive market price or derive swap margin, is calculate the market price or calculate the swap margin of either all live transaction or deals, or all what if transaction deals, or all both live and transaction deals in the database of the whole database file. Whereas this one, derive price or margin, is carried out on selected deals, which you have selected by entering either 11 or 101 for live deals, or 10 or 100 for what if deals. Then you come to the SSOP model, like as we have done so. Using the switch Windows command of Excel, like what I've done here, come here, and then you go select that and say derive price or margin database. Then you select this particular command. If calculations cannot be carried out on a particular deal due to any error, AZMAT System enters, same like the other ones, -991 for live deal or -990 for what if deal in the deal type column of the database file. But there's a big difference. Having done that, then it continues with the command for other selected deals. So if it comes across with an error, for example, here. So it's done that, fine, no errors on this one or that one. For example, right, let's say on this one, it comes with an error. So it's done the first 2, 3 deals. It comes across with an error. What it will do is enter -991 if it is a live deal. In this case, it's not a live deal. We know that because the third digit is a 0, because it's got a 100. If it was a live deal, it would have been 101 or 11, not 100 or 10. So if it has come, let's say it's come across an error on the 4th deal here, 4th selected deal, remember. First selected deal, 2nd, 3rd, 4th. If all 3 ones carried out, fine, no errors. But on the 4th one, it comes across an error. What it will do is enter, in this case, because it's a what if deal, it'll enter -990 in that deal type column and continues with the command for other selected deals. Then you'll go to the next selected deal, which is this, and the next, and so on. Note that this command does not terminate in case of an error. Unlike the other 2 commands, as we saw before, derive market price database or derive swap margin database, these 2 commands terminate as soon as it comes across with the first error on the point of on the deal or transaction deal which has the error. Does not proceed further, because those commands are could be for the loss of database, loss of transaction deals. Whereas these selected, like in this case, you only selected 6, maybe 10, maybe 20, maybe 30 even, whatever, not so many. So this command, derive market price or margin database command, continues with the next selected deal or database in case it comes across with an error. All it does is when it comes across with an error is enter -990 or -991 for a live deal. At the end of the command, a message is displayed showing the number of errors that were encountered. If there were no errors, that is also stated. So it'll actually tell you, AZMAT System will tell you, for example, one error, there was one error, or two errors, or whatever. And if no error says, well, it will tell you there were no errors. So you know that the deals you selected, all the information was correct. And it has calculated for all the selected deals. To see error or errors in any deal, first make a note of the transaction deal number and then change, just like we did for the others. To see what error is where, first make a note of the transaction deal number. In this case, if the fourth was an error, make a note of that, and then change this back to, in this case, it would have made this -990, remember, because if it was an error, it would have made, and AZMAT System would have entered -990. Enter. So you make a note of the transaction deal number, so you know which one it was. Put 0 back there, and then load that transaction deal in the SSO model, and you'll see what the error is where. I'm going to put it back here, these zeros as I had before in there. And this would be 1, it would have been 1, it was 1, 1. Okay, so we have 1, 1, all zeros as we had before. The rest of it is similar to the other ones. You enter back, make a note of the, if in case of an error, to see what the error is, make a note of the transaction deal number, enter, then change the 991, -991 to 1, or -990 to 0, as I've done in the deal type column of the, and then use the following command from set menu, load all transaction deal. And enter, and load that particular transaction deal, right? Because you've made a note of the what the actual deal or transaction number was, where the error occurred. Load that into your SSO model, and then you can see when it's done what the error is. So that's the derive price or margin database command. Now these are the other commands are set menu, load all transaction deal, basically loads that particular, any particular deal which is already in the database in here. And the currently in your SSO model. So you can find out, for example, what the error was, or do some calculations, or do whatever you like, basically. So it loads an old transaction or deal from database file for the current model. So the model could be whatever you have. Similar command applies to the bond model and the FRNs and so on. So this basically loads the old transaction deals from the database file, remember. This command is only available when the SSO model is being used. This command should be used to load an existing set of input data details from the user's own SSO database file into the input area of the SSO model. So, for example, if we go back here, if we look at it here, you have quite a lot of data, not just this here, all here, there, but also anything in yellow, as you can see here, plus this could be quite detailed. which cash flow number and what amount, and here in the cash flow, here again, date, number and amount, and these values, all these, whatever is in yellow, all that you want to upload basically in this, fill up this particular model, the SOP model from the database file, which is there. All these columns, 45 columns, put it the whole lot in one go very quickly in the current model. This is what you would use. So for example, if I go back here, you would see I have the one I just entered here, the 1st of September today. That was that. Let's say I want to load this one, the one I did yesterday. So I know the transaction deal number is 724502. I wanted to upload that. That's the 31st of August. Okay, let's go back here, not from here. Let's go to SOP model, and that model, the transaction deal number was different. Remember, it's not 454 last 3 digits. So I'll say Z menu, load transaction or deal. I'll use that command in a minute. So this command should be used to load an existing set of input data details from the user's own SSOP database file into the input area of the SSOP model. The database file is opened by AZMAT System if it's not already open. User is presented as an input box against the background of the SSOP database file. Okay, so I'm here, currently I'm here on the, you see here, I'm on the SSOP model. I'm not on the database file. The database file is here open, but it need not be. It might even be closed if you like. And you can say load, and the AZMAT system will open it if it's not already open. So it'll do that background work. You don't have to worry about. All you need to worry about is to know which transaction or deal number you want it to load. So it will load all the information from the database or input it all the items you see here everywhere and do the calculations which it can. Remember, it's partially part AutoCalc, and then the other bits you can change. So this command should be used, as we've said, that to input data to get the load an existing set of input data details. So once you've done that, the user is presented with an input box against the background of the SSOP database file. So let's do that. So if I say set menu, load all transaction deal. So remember the current one is 790454. There. This command will replace current screen data. It just gives you a message, helpful message if you like, to show that it is going to replace that, whatever you have in the current screen data. Before continuing, click OK to first. Before continuing, click OK to first save screen data, or click cancel to lose the screen data. See, so you may not have saved it. You may have changed some items, perhaps. In which case, you could save it first before it will open and replace that data. I don't need to save it because I've already saved this particular one, so I'm going to choose the cancel command. Remember, it's not canceling the command. Basically, in this case, say in Excel, you have a limited number of options to use the message box. So this is the one I could use, OK or cancel message box. So I'm using it, in fact, for my own purposes, what I want Excel to do. So I just wanted to either user to confirm to save this particular set of data if it's changed. User decides whether they want to or not. and or click cancel to lose. They want, because they said, right, they want to load some old transaction deal into the currently open file. So I want to just lose. Basically, I've already got that saved, so I'm saying cancel. So now it's made the AZMAT model database file active. As you see, I'm on the here, and it's saying please click on the required number, like here, or enter the required number and then click the OK button. So this was my current one, 1st September. Remember, transaction, if I move slightly low, you can see that transaction deal date, this is the current one. I want to open the one, yesterday's one. Deal date was yesterday, and that was the one, 724502. I can just click here, and it will then enter that data, use that one. Or I can say, I can see that, oh yes, it's 724502. So I can enter the actual number. So 724502 there. So let's just do this one by entering it. Then we'll again do something else and use the pointing the mouse. So 724502, that's the one I wanted to upload. And the two things here, transaction deal date was 31st of August. And the deal maturity was 29th August 22. Remember, 2022 instead of 2021, the current one I have. So 724502, click OK. Deal for transaction is 724502, retrieved, means it's got that from the database and entered it all here. You can see that the maturity date is changed now, 29th August 2022, and all the other information as well. Note that currently displayed figures, present value, bond yield, and net profit loss are not correct. Now it knows for sure that they're not correct because it's replaced the whole deal database. Not that they may not be correct, remember. It knows that they are not correct. So that's the message there. Click OK. Right. Now, the other thing is you can see that the maturity date is 2022 in there, but the valuation date here, 31st August, because that's what I had in the original yesterday, because this was done yesterday. So I want to do it now. First thing, so first thing is here, input data has been changed, and yield, PV yield, net PL results displayed may not be correct. Let me just show you, let me just go back. The maturity date is 2022 here. If you go back to see the database for the one which is 1st of August, maturity date was 2021. Show you that 2021, 1st of September, the one which I had before this. So it has opened, it has loaded the AZMAT model with this model, with this transaction deal, and it is highlighted just so that the user knows that that's the one it has uploaded in memory. So if I go back there, that's what I have here, and so they are not correct. They will not be correct. So if I now, the other thing you may notice, may or may not notice, the settlement date is 6th of September 2017. In fact, actually, I'm not going to go into detail now. I'm going to just go through that. I've just done just to show you that the load transaction deal command, and that's what it does. So let's just briefly go through this. The user, once you have said use that command, load transaction deal, user is required to simply click on the transaction deal number of the relevant bond in the database file, and the bond could could be easily identified from the issuer, coupon, maturity, transaction deal database, deal date, LIBOR margin, and user's own common details. All these bond details are in clear view of the user at the time of any selection. Therefore, the user does not need to remember the transaction deal number. See, you can see all those in the bond deal database 724,502. If I go back there, and there 724,502, you can see all these other. If you might, the user might remember the issuer, coupon, and maturity date, by which they know that is, or the transaction deal date. So the user does not necessarily need to remember the actual deal number. But if they do, that is obviously useful. But they might, the typical bond dealer or trader would know, perhaps even from the issuer name, the coupon was there, whether the coupon is 5%, 7.5%, 4.5%, 7%, whatever, and the maturity date. Bond could be easily identified. Or in here, in the last one here is a summary. It's even better. You know all that. So they would know which particular bond is. So the transaction deal number is not the only item which identifies a bond. So all these details are available. If it's not visible, they can just simply move it slightly there. They can see what it is. Alternatively, the user could enter the transaction deal number of the relevant one instead of pointing with the mouse. So remember, I had just actually entered the transaction deal number. Let's go back, and now I want to calculate. I want to actually load this one back again, the one I was using. So this time I'll use the mouse key. Just want to demonstrate so if I'm here, I have 724,502. Maturity date is 2022, remember. So I want to load old transaction deal. And this time, again, here it says, before continuing, you click OK to save or click cancel to lose that screen. Let's just lose it. We just want to open. This time, I'm not going to enter it there as I did last time, the actual number. I will simply point. So if I click here, this is the transaction deal number column. I can just simply point. So this has entered. This is the row 31, column 4. Row 31, column 4, reference for that cell. And if I click OK, it's going to open that particular this deal in the database, in the asset swap database. So remember, the deal maturity is 31st August 2021. So it's opened that, it's retrieved that, and they are not correct, it says, because it's replaced the last one, whatever it was. So 31st August 2021. That's what I have here. Okay, so that's what the load old transaction deal command does. We are just going through briefly these commands, so I don't particularly want to go through the actual each command again and again. So save over old transaction deal command. As is obvious from the command, it saves over the old transaction deal in database file for the current model. This command is only available in SSWAP model is being used because all these commands are for the SSWAP model. So the save over old transaction deal command can only be used to change details of an existing bond in the SSWAP model database, in the SSWAP model database, which means that whenever this command is used, currently displayed data in the input area should always have a transaction deal number. So save over old transaction deal can only be used, or will make sense, you'll see, when there is a transaction deal number. Now remember, this is not in yellow, this is in blue. So only items which are in yellow, they are entered by the user. They can be changed by the user. This one here is not designed to be changed by the user. So if this cell, spreadsheet cell, is blank, there's nothing there, that means save as new transaction deal has to be used, not save over old, because if there is no old transaction deal, if there is no number in here. So this command can only be used to change details of an existing bond in the SSO model database. Which means that whenever this command is used, currently displayed data in the input area should always have a transaction deal number. This can only happen in the following circumstances. Original data for currently displayed transaction deal was loaded into the input area of the SSO model, like we've done, by using load an old transaction deal command. Or original data for currently displayed transaction deal number was saved in the SSO model by using save as new transaction deal command. So if this was blank and I had then done some calculation, then saved, right, save as new, in which case at that point it would have given a number. Then I could say, right, make some other changes and say, right, save over old transaction deal. So by making some other changes, I still want to keep that one, I can do so. I could save that other the deal as a new one by using save as new, but I can also overwrite on the existing one by using save over old transaction deal command. All these things will become more and more clear to you as you start using these commands. If this command is used incorrectly, for example, where AZMAT system has not yet allocated transaction deal number to the currently displayed data in the input area, AZMAT system informs the user that there is no existing data to overwrite. So if there's a new, completely new, nothing, you just open it, there's no number there, then say save over old, it will say so, that there is no overwrite, existing data to overwrite. Each time this command is completed successfully, AZMAT system saves the SSO model database file in the user's own area of the C drive. So if in case where the user's area is on C, it will save it in C. This case is G, so saving it in G:\\\AZMAT. That's the user's own area. So therefore, all changes to the SSO model database file via AZMAT system commands are always saved to the disk. So whatever you make changes to, whatever changes you make, they are saved in the SSO model database by AZMAT system. You do not have to, you the user do not have to worry about that. AZMAT system takes care of that and saves all changes to the database file. So AZMAT system SSO model database file is saved by AZMAT system in the user's own area each time this command is completed successfully. Right? Means if there is no error, it saves that. Save it in database, and the database file is also saved. So AZMAT system allocates a unique transaction deal number or deal number to this set of input data. User has to enter or select this transaction deal number to enable AZMAT system to load the same set of input data into the SSO model at any time in the future. So So when you say save over old, that you've got that old, as you say save as new, got a new one. So this number is the one you have to remember, if you like, make a note of it. If the other items like coupon, maturity, and other things are not sufficient for you to remember a deal. Transaction number, deal number is always a unique deal number or transaction number given to every single transaction or deal in the user's database file for that particular user. This command can only be used to create a new set of bond data with a unique transaction deal number, either from scratch or after changing details of an existing bond. So I've opened I load over transaction deal. I used it. Having done that, I can now, for example, change this to, instead of, let's make some changes to it. Very simple change. Let's change it to coupon rate. Instead of 5%, I'll change it to say 5.1%, for example. Very simple change. But now this is a whole sort of new, completely new thing there. So as far as AZMAT System is concerned, if I now say, if I say save as new, so it will generate a new number, or it can save the same one with this particular coupon rate, and then all the calculations will be, obviously, I'll have to calculate it again. At this point, it's not, it can't be the same because I've changed the coupon. So let's first calculate. Let's say calculate net P&L and run this point move. I didn't have to do all that. I could have just done one. See, as you can see, it's changing each time, and messages are here displayed. Lots of things, right? Now it's done all the calculation. As you can see, just by changing the coupon rate by 0.1%, 5.1 instead of 5%, the net P&L has changed and the other information has changed. Right, let's now save. I can either save over old, or I can use save as new transaction. Let's save over old. So it's done that, same number, and the file has been replaced by currently displayed data as required. So if you go to the, so its coupon is 5.1 instead of 5%. That's the only change I've made. Of course, all these other items results have changed. But if you have a quick look at that database, there it is. Transaction deal number is the same, but the coupon is 5.1 instead of 5%, as I had before. So, AZMAT System allocates a unique transaction or deal number to this set of input data if I actually save it as a new one. But if I save it as the old one, which I've done, it simply replaces the old transaction deal with this new one. Not only that, but also the results, if they've changed, which very likely they would change because you've changed the coupon, the new details will replace this last row. Of course, the deal date would be the same as now, currently the 1st September 2017, but all the other information, input data like the maturity date and so on is the same. The coupon is changed to 5.1. So this command can only be used to create a new set of bond data with a unique transaction deal number, either from scratch or after changing details of an existing bond. If it cannot be used to override details of an existing bond. If details of an existing bond need to be changed, then save over all transaction deal command should be used instead. The user need not remember the transaction deal number, as the relevant bond could be easily identified from the issue, coupon, maturity, or transaction deal database, library margin, and user's own command. And the user's own common details of the bond, which are also in view at the time of any selection. So when you've selected, you can also see that. See, that one was 5%. Let's change to 5.1 because that's what I asked you to do. Maturity is exactly the same, 2021, because I didn't change that. I only changed the coupon. So let's go back here. Now, so that was save over old transaction deal. We've done the, now if you go and look at it here, Z menu, save over old. So reset transaction deal database. Resets user's own transaction deal or database file for current model. This command sorts the database file in the correct order. Live records are stored in ascending order of the transaction deal date, beginning at the first record in the database. So if we look at this here from the beginning, go back to the top. So if you use the command reset from the Z menu, reset transaction deal or database, so it sorts the database file in the correct order. Live records are stored in ascending order of the transaction deal database. Live records, number 1 equal to live, z equal to what if. So the live records are first because they are important, more important than the what if calculation records. So the live records are stored in ascending order of the transaction deal date. So the transaction deal date here, in ascending order of that, 97, 98, 2005, 2007, 2010. And remember, these two last are here, 2017, but if I move this one here, you can see that the transaction deal date, 21st August 2017, 1st September 2017, there. And the live ones were at the top there. So live records is stored in ascending order of the transaction deal date. The transaction deal date happens to be the same, but it will be ascending order of that. Beginning at the first record in the database. What if records are stored in the descending order of the transaction deal date? Beginning at the last record in the database. So if I say reset, if I use reset command, reset access of model, what it will do is source the database file in the correct order. Correct order is live records stored in the ascending order of the transaction deal date, beginning at the first record in the database. What if records are stored in the ascending record? What if records are stored in descending order of the transaction deal date, beginning at the last record in the database, for example. So What if records are stored in descending order of the transaction deal date? So if you look at the current one, let's go back here. Let's go back to here and here. Therefore, so what if records? So the live one is simply ascending order. They both happen to be the same date, transaction deal date. But if the dates were different, it will be in the ascending order of that, beginning at the first record in the database, whereas the what if records are stored in descending order of the transaction deal date, beginning at the last record in the database. So what I'll do here is I will, if I did actually use it, but I don't want to do this right now, I just want to proceed with the command. Explain the commands, and we'll do this at a later date. And by actually changing some more of these are all what if, and not much different in the other days. So we'll do that later. So the what if records are stored in descending order of the transaction deal date. So transaction deal date at the moment, transaction deal date, as you can see here, it says, but I have not sorted it out after quite some time. And if I go back to some of these here, you can see that in the years very clearly it's not the same as what it should be. Because now we've got 31st October 2017, 1st October 2017, they are here. So it's at this point it's in ascending order, but if I use that one, reset, then it will sort it, and it'll sort it in descending order, these what if records of this date. So these dates will come at the top. Right. What if records are stored in descending order of the transaction deal date, beginning at the last record in the database? Next one now. Reset one is done. I've done the save overall. Done the save overall. Reset done. We've done. This one, load create transaction deal database. We have actually already we've used that command, but briefly explain that. Loads or creates user's own deal or deal database file for current model. This command is only available when SSOP model is being used. Right, I'm using the SSOP model. So that command, load or create deal database transaction load or create transaction or deal database. The user's own SSOP database file is created automatically and opened by the AZMAT system whenever the commands below are used for the very first time. So the first command here, if the SSOP database file is not open, it is automatically opened by the AZMAT system whenever the following commands are used. Commands are save as new transaction deal, this one. If I use this command, save as new transaction deal, or load old transaction deal, or save over old transaction deal. So these three commands, that save as new, load old, or save old transactional deal, these three commands, if any of these are used, then the SSOP database file will be opened automatically if it's not already open. Therefore, it is necessary to use this command only when the user wishes to view and/or change the details in the database before using the above commands. So load or create command file is necessary only when the user wishes to view and or change details in the database. If you want to save or load, save as new or save old, or old, or load old, the database file, the load create database file, you don't need to use because it'll automatically open it if necessary. You will use this, if necessary, to use this command only when the user wishes to view and or change details in the database when using the above commands. Okay, so load or create transaction database file is not necessary if you want to use these three commands. It'll automatically open it. Load and create. Next one here I have is reset SSOP model. It resets the model and calculates the net profit or loss if there are no errors in the input data. So if in the SSOP model, if there's no input data, it resets. That's what it does. Basically, resets the model and calculates the net profit or loss. This command is only available when SSOP model is being used. Whenever any command is interrupted, i.e. a message is displayed by Excel stating that macro was installed or macro error has occurred, the SSOP model might be left in a state which prevents any further use of the model. This command should be used in such situations. It resets the model and also calculates the net P&L generated provided net P&L provided there are no errors in the input data. So reset SSOP model command is used when the user wants to reset the model and calculate the net P&L, provided there are no errors in the input data. This command should be used in such situations, i.e., whenever a command is interrupted, within the command something very serious error has happened or whatever, when a message displayed by Excel stating that macro was stopped or macro error has occurred, something like that, which should normally happen. But if it did happen, some macro error is shown by Excel, then you need to reset the SSOP model command. If you do not get a macro error or the macro is stopped by Excel, if you get AZMAT System error message, that's fine because the program AZMAT System then knows exactly what the error is and points the user in the correct direction. So the user can change the input data. This is only when any macro error is displayed by Excel while using AZMAT System. Then you'll need to reset SSOP model. It resets the model and also calculates the net profit and loss, provided there are no errors in the input area. In the input data, all this input data is correct. Next one is calculate or display cash flows. Calculates, if necessary, and displays cash flows. This command is only available when SSOP model is being used. The net cash flows from bank's point of view are situated immediately below the main or the immediately below the main data input screen of the AZMAT model. So the calculate display cash flows, as we saw before, they are here, well below. So it's row 101, for example, here, and we are here row 20. So a lot of it is here in between. So if I can actually just so you have row 1 to 3 going down up to row 27 there, going down all the way. You may notice that from row 52, so row 53 to row 93, they are hidden. Cannot see it. If I have my cursor there on row 52, if I click the down arrow, it's going on to row 94. Row 94. If I click the up arrow, goes straight to row 52. So we have several rows which are, and there are indeed 42 rows, which are hidden. They are there. You cannot see it. You cannot see them. They are not accessible to the user, but they are there. So the calculate or display cash flows command is only available when the AZMAT model is being used. The net cash flows from bank's point of view are situated immediately below the main data input, which is the screen of the AZMAT model. So the net cash flows from bank's point of view are situated here. And so it's immediately below the main data input screen of the AZMAT model. This command calculates the cash flows if necessary and brings the cash flows area into view. So if I was somewhere at the top, as you can see here, this is actually row 101. Although we have got here 42 rows hidden, but even if they're not hidden, it still is quite far. So if I'm here anywhere, I'm actually, for example, let's leave it here, for example. If I use this calculate or display cash flows, see I'm here really near the top of the screen. If I click calculate or display cash flows, I could be anywhere, calculate display cash flows. I've come down here, CF date 1, and if I see here, this CF date 1, I'm here at the top of the first of the bond cash flows here in this particular case. Right, so the net cash flows from bank's point of view are situated immediately below the main screen of the AZMAT model, the data input. This command calculates the cash flows if necessary and brings the cash flows area into view. AZMAT model is designed to calculate up to 41 rows of cash flows input cash flow data. This is adequate for a 10-year swap with a quarterly frequency of LIBOR or coupon payments. If the calculation is automatic, the cash flows will be calculated as and when any data is changed. So if I actually change, for example, let's just put it here. As we saw before, if I change the maturity, let's change the frequency of the coupon frequency. No, let's change the maturity rather. Let's make it 2023. And watch here carefully, particularly here. Yeah, 2023, because it's annual. Coupon, the coupon frequency is annual, and extra 2 rows are added now for each year cash flow. So if the SSO model is designed to calculate up to 41 rows of cash flow data, if this is adequate for a 10-year swap with the quarterly frequency of LIBOR coupon payments. I mean, it could have been designed for more, but that is the most likely scenario. So it's been done for that. For a 10-year swap data, it's a quarterly frequency. It's more than adequate for most purposes. If the calculations automatic cash flows will be calculated as and when any data is changed, they should be correctly displayed except when the cash flow rows exceed 41. In this case, there is an error message displayed, and in the error line at the base of the main data input screen. From the main data input screen, page down key should bring the cash flow area into view. From the cash flow area, page up key should bring the main screen into view. So, or you can just use the mouse. So, if you look at it here now, calculate display cash flows. Now, these other commands we will go into in another session, tutorial session of AZMAT System, because AZMAT System, as I said in other tutorials, it's a star model in AZMAT System. It's very, very comprehensive, very detailed, and very comprehensive the commands are. So we will go into these other commands in another tutorial of AZMAT System. Although they look very simple, just 5 rows here, and then that one there is a separate one, quick one. But these are very comprehensive, very detailed, and we will go in another session of AZMAT System. So right now, let's go back to the data file here, the AZMAT data file. Remember, we started this tutorial and I saved this file, the AZMAT data file, just to get an idea of the time, 12:21 a.m. on 1st of September. So I'll save this file again now. So utility menu, AZMAT, so it was 12:21 when we started, save AZMAT data file, and now it is 4:03 a.m., would you believe? Quite a detailed, quite a long tutorial. And we have not even completed the SSOP model commands. And they are very comprehensive ones even. So this is a new subject, obviously, a new topic, a lot of things to explain, a lot of things to learn. And that's why it takes so long. But bear with me, you will learn. And you will learn all these are very special terms. Remember what we are going through this SSOP model. Some of these commands, not all dealers or SSOP dealers or traders themselves may not have used this comprehensive SSOP model, for example. It's really very, very complex. We have not even gone anywhere detailed yet to these commands. They're not necessarily available in all SSOP models. This one is, because it's been developed according to the, if you like, to carry out the wish list of various bond traders and dealers in several international investment banks in London. That's why it's got quite a few these things you see. So basic SSO model could just be that, for example, very simple, straightforward. And you may just notice here, for example, I don't know whether you realize here, we had this here, calculate the basis points. The basis points is not here shown anymore, because in this particular command, they have not been calculated. So AZMAT System simply takes them off the screen. If I use the calculation, then they will be added on. So let's actually, why not just do it? We'll do the calculations here. As it says, they may not be correct. So let's do the calculations for this particular model, and then we'll save it as a new transaction deal. Or I might actually change. Let's change the maturity to 2024, for example. It's a Saturday, in fact, so I can't have that. I'll change it to, in fact, to the 1st of September, or let's bring it back to 29th of Thursday. I could have done Thursday, Friday as well. Well, why not? Let's just do 30th of August, which is a Friday, 2024. Current date is 1st of September 2017. So let's do the full calculation. We'll have a quick look at it before we go there and have a look at the calculation area. As you can see, because it's 7 years gone from 1st of September 2017, maturity is Friday, 30th of August 2024. So we have so many rows here, more rows than we had before, and the cash flows. And this is a cross-currency swap. Remember, 2 different currencies. Let's go and get it to calculate, AZMAT System to calculate all of it. So I want the 1 basis point move as well. So remember here, if you notice, 1 basis point calculations are not displayed at all, because they would be completely incorrect for these values. So AZMAT System completely takes them off, doesn't actually put it there. And as saying here that this data, input data has been changed, so these values may not be correct. We are going to finish the session, but let's just do the calculations of this one. Calculate net PLL and 1 basis point move. So if there is an error, it will show. Otherwise, if you watch that here, various messages are displayed. And even this point has been changed here. You can see that that's been changing. And again, now, the standard message, note, commands that many have been specifically designed to work with this file. That means what? It means that all the results shown are correct to all the input data here, not just here, what you can see here, but also if I had any data here or there, anywhere where it's yellow. Okay. You will see here later when we have some items here. We'll go into some later at a later date. There's a lot to do. And some asset swap desks in an investment bank. In an asset swap desk means where the dealers or traders, specifically, they do nothing but the deal with the asset swaps. That's all they do. 85% or 90% of their time, they will have asset swap model on their computer and doing various calculations, talking to the clients and suggesting various swaps and so on. And so they will have this particular model on their desk literally 85-90% of the time every day while they're working. So let's just save this one as It is 790454. I want to save it as a new transaction deal or database. And in fact, actually, let's do one other thing in here. I can make this, so those were the cash flows. I can, why not, let's change this. Instead of 0, what if deal, I'll make this, say, live deal. Okay, so you will see when in the column 1 should be, AZMAT system will put it as 1. And you have all the base point move and all these calculations. I'm not going to change anything here right now. Let's just save it as a new transaction deal. Deal has been saved, new transaction, it's given a completely different number, as you can see that. And I saved that in your, this is the database file for ACSWAP. This file resides in that directory, showing that. In case this file was not open, but this file is open because you'd opened it to do that. Have a look at it now in that file. If you go back here, if you see that, see the live one is at the top, first one. If I go and look at the, if it is the what if deals, they are stored at the bottom in descending, in increasing order of that date, but the live one is descending order of the transaction deal date. So the first one here, September 9th, 2017. We do another next day, tomorrow, 22nd September, and so on. You will see that will be stored at the top, the live deal is the first deal, because that is something you want to see it. That a dealer would really like to see those active deals at the top. Okay, having done that, now we will, this time we'll go back here, for example, go down there, and so this time let's finish that. But before we finish that, let's actually ask to close the ACSWAP model. Come on, I don't have to, but I'd rather do that properly. So close that. So if I go and look at it, not only the ACSWAP model file, but also the ACSWAP model database file is also closed by AZMAT system. Because you would not actually use the database file without the ACSWAP model also open and be active. Right, so that is all I have is the AZMAT data file open. I'm actually again going to save. That was 403 last time I saved. It saves the date and the time whenever you use the save AZMAT data file. That was 403. Now it's 413. It's 10 minutes earlier it was. So now at 4:13, I'm now going to finally close this particular. If we had actually started at 12:21 or something, can't remember, but we'll see when we actually finish it. We'll see how big this tutorial session is. It's coming very close to several hours. But okay, let's just finish this. Right now, I have here is one the AZMAT data file open, and if I actually just wondering whether we should recap very briefly on these commands before we close. Let's just close. Don't want to make it too long. So add-ins, go to that file I've already saved. There's nothing else to save. I'll just use the J menu. I can use one of these commands. I can say quit AZMAT, save files beginning with user ID, quit AZMAT, do not save any files. Either of these will do. But right now, first thing I'm going to do is to, instead of using the quit command, to close the actual AZMAT system database. AZMAT system I'm going to actually stop the tutorial by clicking. So I'm going to stop the tutorial now. Thank you for staying with this very long tutorial. Hopefully, even if you have to stay to the end, the idea is you could then open it and again watch it from where you left off or from the beginning if that's what you'd like. Okay, I'm going to stop it now. See you in the next tutorial.